we're away.
Okay. All right, so let's start. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully all of you are doing well today. It is a pleasure to welcome all of you and thank you for applying to this webinar. My name is Bisera and I'm the founder and sales manager at The Scally Learning. As most of you know, The Scally is a company that offers corporate trainings with various speakers from all over the world. And so far we had participants from Switzerland, Monte Carlo, Slovenia, Slovakia, Kosovo, Bulgaria, North Macedonia, and many, many more. So it is a great moment for us to have Mr. David Holland here today, as he is one of the most experienced coaches in the world. He has won a series of awards, including Best Client Result Coach of the Year. So having now worked with clients in 37 countries and counting, and published over 45 books on business and personal development. So in the name of the Scally team, I would like to welcome all of you to Coaching Your Team to Results webinar. And I wish you an educational, fun, and networking experience. Let's start. David?
Fabulous. Bisera, thank you. And welcome properly everybody now as we go along. So just a little bit of sort of housekeeping. My suggestion is what we do is we've got 3 hours to go, lots of content to go through. I'd like you to ask any questions you have. We'll pause for questions as we go along. Anything crops up, please drop me a note in the chat box and I'll do my very best to answer it as we go along, but plenty of time for participation. I look forward to questions to help you with the learning. We are recording, so I will send the recording. Bisera will have that and send it out to you. We've got some notes, some handouts, some ebooks as a bundle, as a sort of gift as part of the workshop that you'll receive tomorrow as well. And we'll have a break around halfway through, a comfort break for, go grab a coffee, grab a cigarette, that sort of thing. But really, I want this to be all about you guys. I've got, slides and stories to tell you. The more questions you ask me or the more information you request, that I'll happily go off track and give you all the content that I can. The coach training I would deliver when we were based over in the US, for example, we would do 11 days of coach training straight through, 11 solid days from 6 in the morning till about 10 o'clock at night. So to get everything into 3 hours is quite challenging, but I'm going to do my very best to give you some tools and techniques I hope you can use and take away that you can use in your business straight away. So there we go. We'll kick off. This is just for your reference. This is where we are based. So I'm sat now in our office in France. We live in France, a little cottage right on the German border. We have offices in Luxembourg, which is just up the road there, about half an hour away. And we have offices over in the UK as well. And we are business coaches and trainers. We have a language training business as well. I've been in this business for 20 years, pretty much, or 19 and a half years now. And we've worked with clients all over the world in 30 plus countries. We work with corporate executives, large businesses, and entrepreneurial SMEs and startups as well. And what I found is that the approach I take from a coaching perspective is pretty much the same, whether I'm working with an entrepreneur, business owner, or an executive or a manager and their team. So what I'm going to go through is the basic principles that I use with my clients that hopefully you can take away and use with yourselves, with your teams, and with your network as well. So when I look at the coaching approach, the coaching principles, the question we were asked earlier on, just before we went sort of on air, was what sort of feedback do we get? In my experience, coaching is probably the number one process or strategy to enable people to achieve the best results they can. I see it with my clients that I use on a regular basis. For example, and literally this week, or on month end now, it's end of October pretty much, we've had a number of people with their best ever months in terms of sales or margins or growth. One client has trebled their business in the last 18 months, and people are doing really well. And that's not because I'm doing the work for them, but they're using the coaching principles and mindset to get results for themselves and their team. So it is a very powerful toolkit, much much more powerful in my experience than just management or just leadership or consulting. And so if you blend these type of techniques with those type of roles, I hope that you will get some very good results for yourselves and your colleagues as well. So number one is what is the purpose of coaching? And my take on this, really, the purpose of coaching, why do I exist as a coach, is to help and enable other people to maximize their levels of achievement. And that might be personally, professionally, it could be monetary wise, it could be lifestyle wise. It doesn't really matter what it is. The principles I'm going to explain and run through, they achieve all sorts of things, whether you want to make more money, have more time, get more balance, learn more knowledge, become a better leader, whatever it is, the techniques work. So the purpose of coaching really is just to help other people achieve more. But the critical thing here really is it has to be their choice. Is no good as a coach. I can't tell people what to do. That's not my job. I'm not their manager. I'm not their boss. I want to understand what they want to achieve. And then my role is to help them achieve it. But I don't choose what they want. And this is one of the key distinctions here with the clients I work with. And we've had clients working with me now for, gosh, 15 years, some of them 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, 5 years. And what I've figured out is that what they wanted at the start of the journey is different, was different now than what they want in the future now. Things change, but it's always their choice. So the purpose of coaching is to help other people achieve more, basically. And my mantra is I believe that people are better off with me than without me. The reason I exist as a coach in a long-term relationship with clients and people is because they're better off with me than without me. They are achieving more with me as a consequence of the coaching than they would otherwise. And that's a real distinction there. So when executives are coaching their teams, for example, or your colleagues and support network, the reason you're doing it is to enable them to achieve something bigger, brighter, and better. Now that may well suit the organization, but don't think that coaching, for example, if you're working with a sales team, let's say I'll pick on a sales team, and you don't think that coaching is just to get them to sell more. That's not the case. It can be a happy byproduct of the coaching approach, but the coaching is really to enable them to personally achieve and grow and develop and learn. The consequence of that may well be they sell more or they become more productive or more efficient or whatever it is. But don't try and think it's going to be just skills coaching. That's training, not really coaching to a certain extent. So I'll work through this as we go along. There's different flavors of it as well. But coaching is about helping people improve and be better. I looked on the ICF, International Coach Federation website for what a definition of coaching. And this is what is on their website. You can have a look at it. It's partnering with clients in a thought-provoking creative process and all that sort of thing. You can sort of read that yourselves. For me, when I have a coaching session with somebody, it's much simpler than this, actually. It's just a structured conversation with a focus and with an objective. That's it. So my role as coach is to have a conversation with somebody, enabling them to learn, grow, build, and develop, achieve something, move forwards, make progress, learn, develop, share ideas. It's just a structured conversation. This is all coaching really is. So when we look at how do you frame your coaching construct, your model, your process, your principles, there's a very well-known model called the GROW model. And this suggests we start with goal. And what is our objective? What's our goal? What's our outcome? What's our target? Then we assess what is our reality? Where are we now? What's our start point? What are we really, what are we dealing with right now? What's our start and finish point? And this is very much like having, and I explain to my clients, and when you're doing your coaching, it's like having a GPS, a sat nav in your car. If you want to go somewhere, you need to know just three things. You need to know, well, what's the destination? Where are we leaving from? What's the start point? And how do you want to get there? Do you want to avoid the toll roads? Do you want the auto route? Do you want to go side roads? Do you want to go via the scenic route, whatever it is? And then you can take them on a journey. So this is what this GROW model really is. It's the destination, the goal. Reality is the start point. The options are, well, which route do you want to go? What time do you want to get there? What is it time critical, time sensitive? And the final option then really is, well, will you do it? What is your level of commitment? So one of the distinctions, I think, from consulting and training or management and leadership, and I fulfill those roles in my career as well, is when I work with my clients from a coaching perspective as their coach, during the coaching conversation, I'm going to look for commitment. What is your commitment to this objective, this goal? How certain are you that you will be able to achieve it? And I want them to come back and confirm they're committed to it, not just in a way of, oh, well, yeah, I'll think about it. I'll try. I'll do my best. All these sort of things. They don't work. What I look for is certainty of commitment. It's this will to do it. And that's one of the differentiators, again, in terms of success and achievement from a coaching perspective. I want to know, what is their level of commitment? Are they going to do whatever it takes? Are they going to really dig in, do this thing, get this project finished, do the learning, whatever it is, and confirm they're going to achieve it? Because next week when I speak with them, I'm going to check up on them. And coaching is it's a process. It's not a single event. I do see some organizations, and what they will say to their team, their employees, is, look, we're going to arrange a coaching session with you and one of the managers, or a buddy system or something like this, and they have one coaching session. I don't buy that. I don't think singular coaching sessions work. I think coaching has to be a process that evolves over a number of sessions, a number of weeks, for example. If I'm coaching somebody, I refuse to work with them for less than 4 months. So it's a minimum 4-month program, because during that time, we can learn and get to know each other, make progress, and really build some momentum there. So individual coaching sessions, in my experience, tend not to work because there's no follow through, there's no accountability, and this commitment at the end of the conversation, I want to follow through the next time that I speak with people. But this is a framework that you can consider when working with one of your team in terms of how you frame the coaching approach. What's their outcome? Now, when I'm working with, let's say I'm working with an executive in an organization, they're not the business owner, they are an executive running a department or a division, and this may be exactly what you come across in your work as coaches as well. Is I don't say to them, what's your goal professionally? What do you want your department to achieve? What's your budget? What's your sales? What's your forecast? What's the, what the deadlines of projects you've got to manage? The first thing I want to know is them. What do they want to achieve out of this personally? Because we're much more motivated, in my experience, we're much more motivated about our personal goals and objectives than we are about our employers' goals and objectives. We just are. We buy into it. We buy into the organization. From a motivation commitment point of view, again, what I've found is if somebody can achieve their personal goals as a consequence of achieving professional goals within a company, much more likely to do it, whatever that will be. And so I want to know what their personal goals are as well. What are you shooting for? Now, typical things would be that I've come across, for example, I want to be promoted. I want to get the next promotion in my organization. I want to get the next pay rise. I want to have a fabulous holiday. I want to go I want to get on a degree course. I want to go and get qualified. I want to do something for themselves first. And if I tie their personal goals, then match those with the organizational goals. So, well, you've got this fabulous holiday. Can you see how achieving this project at work would enable you to get the bonus, the commission, the whatever it is, the reward, and then you can go and get the holiday, providing the company goals and objectives give them support in their personal lives, for example, much more likely to really buy into it. The commitment will be a lot higher. So the goal is personal goals as well as professional goals. The relationship I have with my clients is totally confidential. So second, sorry, I'm letting somebody in. There we go. I never talk. I wouldn't on here. I wouldn't do it. So my clients tell me all sorts of things. It may be if you're the supervisor, the manager, the leader within the company already, it's a different sort of relationship. They may not share all these sort of things with you, but do try and get the personal goals as well as a tip, because that's much more motivating, and then tie them across to the organizational goals. So it's goal, reality, reality check. Where are we now? What do we need to do? What options have we got? What's the plan? What's the structure? What's the strategy? How do we put this plan together? What's the roadmap look like? And what's the level of commitment? And what we do basically is we take let's say someone's got a 12-month goal, a 12-month goal target objective. We break it down into slices. Typically, and I'll touch on this a little bit later on, I will work with people on a weekly basis. I find faster paced coaching tends to get better results. So I will have a weekly conversation with my clients with a 12-month target. I then break it down into 90-day or quarterly sprints, quarterly plans, 90-day plans, and then we have a weekly consultation. Now, those consultations can take anything. I have one client, she's been with me for, gosh, 4 or 5 years. I allow an hour. In my schedule, I allow an hour for that coaching conversation. And on average, we speak for about 8 minutes. That's it. All via Zoom, 8 minutes, in, out, job done, away we go. She's happy. And she is happy, getting great results as well. Other clients, and I'll touch on this a little bit later on as well, they need different things, a different approach, different style. So they'll take a whole hour for it. But the weekly touch points or regular touch points, scheduled touch points, in my opinion, are very, very important from a coaching relationship. Some coaches, for example, will say they will have a batch of 10 coaching sessions. Then the client can choose when they have their coaching session. You have one now, one in 3 weeks' time, one in 2 months' time, and it sort of stretches out. Again, I don't buy that. I think coaching is about pace. I think it's about accountability and making things happen. The coaching program is mine, not my clients. You as coaches, when you're doing this, you're in control of the coaching relationship, and the coachee must fit in with you in terms of getting the best results and outcomes. So coaching can be uncomfortable as well. We'll touch on this, but there's the principle, there's a model. Those are things we need to know. Goal, outcome, personal and professional. Reality, where we're starting from, what are the challenges, what are the objectives, what's the thing, what are the options, how do you want to get there, what speed, when, what's critical to us, how committed are you to it, and then we build a plan around it. So that's the broad principle of a coaching relationship. In terms of pure coaching, if you look at the ICF website, International Coach Federation website, which is fabulous, I recommend it, have a look at it, some good content on there. There's a purity of coaching where coaching is all about the coach asking elegant questions. And we're touching this as well, asking elegant questions. And it is absolutely about that. But the challenge I find is that when I'm working with somebody, an executive or a manager or a member of a team or a supervisor, if I'm going to get them results, I need to ask them great questions as their coach, but staying in pure coach mode isn't enough, because it can just be irritating if you've got a challenge in your team or your company or whatever it is, and I'm just going, well, how can you fix that? Yeah, well, what other options have you got? Who can you refer to? It's pretty irritating just to have zero input from a coach. So my style is slightly directional coaching, and how that shows up is this is my model of how I treat my clients, and you can either use this, or you can choose to ignore it, or you can use different flavors of it. But this is the method I use of my coaching approach. So first of all, there's what I call transformational coaching. And I'm working on my clients' mindsets, beliefs, behaviors, knowledge, attitudes, personality, limiting beliefs, what is going on in their head. And for example, typical things can be, well, of course, they will say things like, well, you can't sell in December in this business, or it's always quiet in August, you can't do this and you can't do that, or this business is special and unique, this doesn't work in my business. Or they may say, I'm not ready to do this, I'm not able to go and do this presentation, I'm not good enough, I'm not experienced enough, I'm too young, I'm too old, too tall, too fat, whatever it is, there's always something going on. So I work on their mindsets, transformational coaching, working on their beliefs, their attitudes, and their behaviors. That's where a lot of coaching stays as well. And there's absolutely a place for it. But I start there. I want to know about their mindset, their beliefs, their attitudes. What do they think about themselves? What do they think about their own abilities? And there is normally these limiting beliefs that we've all got them, that hold us back. And if I can break through those limiting beliefs with people, it's a transformational change and helps them progress. So transformational coaching is one style of coaching, if you like. And then transactional is another one that I would use. Now, what I mean by transactional is more tactical. So in business terms, for example, I may say, look, we need to get a business plan here, get a business plan put together. We need a budget, a cash flow forecast, and a business plan. They go, okay, great. So I will say, well, here's some templates you can use. Here's a budget template. Here's a business plan template, all this sort of thing. And I give them a bit of guidance towards the things they should do. If I didn't do that, and it was purely transformational coaching, it would be the question I would ask my clients would be, what do you think we need to have in place to guarantee success over the next 12 months? Now, hopefully they would say business plan, budget, forecast, cash flow, all this sort of thing. I go, yep, great, that's it. Away we go. Sort that out. Have it done by next week, and I'll speak to you as we go along. If they don't know that, if they don't know that they need a cash flow forecast, it's going to take me a long time to ask them all these elegant questions to get them to realize they need a cash flow forecast. Or I can say to them, look, to get the results you want, there's some basic parameters here we really need to get underway. I would suggest you consider looking at this, 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 and this. And they go, okay, great, fabulous, off we go. They go away, get the templates, do it all, and away we go. But that's not actual pure coaching. That's more consulting, if the difference there. In my world, and I think in business world, if you want, because we've got time constraints against us, if you want to get results at a certain pace, then really a little bit of the work you do is likely to be transactional, some tools and techniques or processes and procedures that you can guide people towards that embellish the coaching conversations you have. The approach is the same, but it's more directional through to tools and techniques. And the third aspect is accountability. So all my clients, whether they are a manager, a business owner, or a CEO, or whatever it is, they are accountable to me. We agree on the outcome for next week or this month, this quarter. And that could be an activity. It could be a learning point. It could be a document to write. It could be a presentation they're going to do or a sales target they're going to hit. But they agree, and then I hold them accountable to that. And what I have my accountability toolkit here. Yes, I'll come back to that. I'll just see your notes. This is my accountability toolkit that I use when I'm on my Zoom calls. All my work is over Zoom, and I show my clients this, and it's a bit of fun, but it's literally, but they get it's a metaphor, because I am going to hold them accountable in a positive way. I want them to get good results, and if I need to push them a little bit, then I'm going to push them, because that's what makes them uncomfortable, and I push them as hard as I need to, such that they break through and do these things. Otherwise, they wouldn't need me. So thank you for the question. Efficient followers. Do you have a file per coachee? Yes, I do. I have a file per coachee, and what every coachee does with me each week before we speak, they will send me a document, and I'll put it in the pack I sent to Bisera so you can have an example of it, a coaching objectives sheet, and they will write on that objective sheet, my targets for the week are this, this, and this. Here's what I'm committing to do. Here's what I need from you, my coach. Here's what I'm going to send you. And they send that completed form over to me the day before we speak. So I know what have they done, how they're doing, what's progress being made. And rather than me refer to their file all the time, though I have one, we really run on a regular objectives coaching update sheet. And they send that to me the day before. I get prepared, and then we go through it. Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you achieve this? Yes, no, good, whatever it is. And away we go. Next week, they do another one. So yes to a file, but also yes to, I think that they send it to me. I don't send it to them. It is their responsibility to fit into the program, and they send it over. Now, maybe they use this document. It may be an email. It could be a WhatsApp message. It could be a Facebook message. It doesn't really matter, but some sort of feedback around how they're doing, what they've achieved. So I'm prepared. The coaching session isn't about really sort of how have you done. It's assessing outcomes, not process. That's what I want to do on a regular basis with people. So yes, there's a file, and yes, there's a document. I'll have it over to Bisera as well, so you can have a copy of it. So that's the method. In terms of the structure of the coaching, just to sort of touch base on this one, it depends on your approach with the people you're working with, but this is what I do. So I have a structure. Typically, I want to know long term. I want to know 5 years out. Where do you want to be in 5 years' time? Could be career-wise. I've got a client in Luxembourg, for example, who's the CEO of a large asset bank in Lux, and he wants to be running a beach bar in Curacao in 5 years' time. Well, that's great. Now, that's not a business goal, that's a personal goal. But to get the beach bar in Curacao in 5 years' time, he's got some real key objectives professionally he's got to achieve to get the right amount of money and the right position and all this sort of thing. But his personal goal is beach bar in Curacao, which I think is very cool. And then what I do, we break it down into layers. We have a 12-month plan, budget, forecast, plan, whatever it is. And then we have 90-day plans, sprints and structures, and then weekly accountability. And what I know is if I achieve every week, we achieve something that achieves the 90-day plan, which achieves a 12-month goal, it all feeds into the 5-year plan as well. So I like to work long term with my clients because coaching, in my experience, is not a quick short-term fix. It can help in the short term, but really longer term embedded change is what we're looking for. So I like to work long term, and typically clients they stay with us for 5 years as well, which is unusual in coach world. That is unusual, but it's what I find gets them the best results. And they get transformational change, and they don't snap back either. It's like starting a fitness program. You may recognize this. I don't know. I've recognized it myself anyway. You start the gym in January after the Christmas break. You start the gym in January. Everybody's excited and motivated. Do the diet, get on with it, and by March, everybody's gone back to normal again. Nobody's going to the gym again. That's what I want to avoid with my clients. So it's a longer term relationship. They can't snap back, and we force this permanent change for them. So that's the structure I use. I do have some clients that I have where they're on 2 calls a month, but that's more when they've been with me for a long time, on weekly, then they can go into a holding pattern onto a twice a month calls and that sort of thing as well. But pattern is the key. Regular calls, scheduled, not flexible, in the diary, scheduled with that sort of accountability. In my experience, is the best way to go. So, number one coaching tool. Now, this is really this is baseline coaching. What skills, qualifications do you need to be a great coach? You need to be able to ask great questions. It's questioning techniques in all sorts, whether it's transactional coaching, transformational, or accountability. My shield, if you like, my defense is always questions. I want to be able to ask questions, not make statements. And this is the key differentiator between consulting, managing, leading, and a coaching relationship. So I would very rarely make a statement or tell my clients what to do. I don't tell them what to do. I will suggest and advise maybe, but it's done through a coaching structured questioning framework. That's what it is. The better quality the questions you ask, the better quality outcomes and buying in you're going to get. Now, in a coaching relationship, and I say this to my clients, so if you were my client, if you were one of my clients, I would say to you, when I ask you a question, it's not just a question, it's an instruction to think and respond. So what I don't accept from my clients, if I ask my clients a question, they can't come back and say, well, I don't know, or I can't think about it, or well, I'm not sure. They've got to come back with a reasoned response. I don't care what it is, but they've got to come back with a reasoned response. Then we can have that coaching conversation based on interaction. So they can't just say, oh, I don't know, I'll figure it out, I hope, I'll try, I'll think about it. That's not good enough. And I position my clients with this, and maybe you can position the people you're working with as well. The questions I ask are instructions to think and respond, and I hold them accountable to that in again, that's quite light and bright, fun way. And they know this. They know this. When I ask them a question, they know they're not going to get away with going, "Oh, I'll think about it," or "I'll try," or well, this sort of thing. Not going to work. I want them to think and respond, and then I'll come back again, and that's when this deeper level of conversation that moves people and gets commitment to things and explores possibilities, that's where it comes from. So questions are the number one tool of coaching. The approach, or where it comes from, is the Socratic Method from Socrates. I'm not sure that's a real photograph of Socrates, but it's an image anyway. But his approach really was educate by asking rather than telling. And that's the fundamental aspect of a coaching relationship. We're educating and guiding and moving by asking rather than telling. Now, education comes from the Latin roots of words. Yes, that comes to a question here. So they do not make statements or give us suggestions, but asking questions and guide clients. Absolutely. Yeah, spot on. Biba, thank you. Same sort of thing. Now, it's a very interesting point there. And just to touch on this, I'm going to do it later. I'll do it now if that's okay. As a coach, I'm not a psychotherapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not qualified to take people on that level of journey through my questions. What I found a couple of times in my career is that somebody needs a different level of help that I'm qualified to give them. If I find that out, I'm going to stop the coaching relationship and make sure they get the help they actually need from a qualified professional. A lot of coaches don't do this. They go down the quasi psychology route. I think it's really dangerous and we don't need to go there. So there is a similarity between the sort of psychotherapy approach. If you find somebody who's got real distress or issues, whatever it is, that's not your job. You go out of coach mode, you make sure as coach you get them some help, whatever it happens to be, and make sure they get looked after. But it is very similar in the approach there. Yeah. So it comes from educare, to train, and educare, to draw out. But we're drawing out, this is the key thing with questioning, we are drawing out the information from the client or the coachee. My belief is that my clients fundamentally know what to do. They know what to do. So if anybody, does anybody here just on the call, any smokers, anybody smoke cigarettes? Just put yes in the chat box or put your hand up. Anybody, any smokers here? Oh, excellent, thank you. So it's a genuine question. Is smoking something you would attempted to stop, you'd like to quit or give in at some point?
Not at this point, no.
Not yet, but maybe at some point. Maybe
about it, but I never did a move on it.
No, okay. So this is just an interesting, it's an analogy really. Anybody who smokes or whatever it is, at some point they know that really, smoking's not such a good idea maybe, and they should stop. And yet sometimes they don't. They don't stop. Giving up smoking is very, very difficult, for example. Giving up a habit is very, very difficult. And I believe that most people at some level, whether it's smoking or anything else like that, they know they should stop, but they don't. And my job as a coach is not to force them to stop, it's to get them to choose to stop, to bring out from them the decision, the choice that they want to stop. Because if I said to Bisera, for example, stop smoking, well, then you're going to fight me on it. And rightly so. It's not my job to tell you, no, I like smoking. What's it going to do with you? If at some point I could have a conversation, I'm going to pick on you now as well, and where it encourages or enables you to say, you know what, I'm going to stop smoking, and you decide to do it. Much more powerful. And that's this coaching approach, getting people to choose and decide of their own free will. But once they decide to do something, to make a change or work in a different way or whatever it is, if they decide and we draw it out of them through these questioning techniques and from a coaching perspective, much more powerful. Some of the people that I work with are people like you, you're senior people, managers, executives, you know what you're doing, highly educated professionals. I'm not going to go into anybody's business or anybody's meeting room and tell them you should do this. That's not coaching. It's not going to work, because as soon as somebody says you should do this, I guarantee your defense mechanism comes up, as mine would as well. And I was told I should learn French. We live in France. I should learn French. Yeah, I should, but don't tell me to do it. I know I should do it, and I am taking lessons. But once you tell me to do something, I'm going to push you back. So, okay. Really, sugar, salt, flour. What's it about? Oh my goodness. I don't know. What's that? 3 sugar, salt, and flour. What about that? I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that one, I think. Sugar, salt, flour. That's a new one to me on the chat box there. If anybody can explain that one in a bit more detail, I'll happily jump into it.
3 white deaths, we call.
Oh, right. Okay. Got it. I understand now. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Got it. Yeah. So the people have addictions to different things, don't they? Yeah. They have different addictions to different things, but it can be a food product. It could be a cigarette. It could be a lifestyle. It could be a mindset. It could be something that is not serving them and they hang on to it. It becomes they have ownership of it, whether it's food related or otherwise. But yeah, you're quite right. Good point. Good point. Now, the Socratic questions, we would call open questions now, but these are the type of questions we can build into a coaching conversation. Clarification questions. Is that real? Is that relevant? How relevant is that to the conversation we're having? Again, it's avoiding statements. Probing assumptions. What else could you assume? One of the things I always find, just out of experience, is it's amazing to me that people will come to me and they'll tell me exactly how it is in their life, in their world, in their business, in their career, and they have absolute certainty around it, absolute certainty. And I'm always amazed by this because it's not true. It's their version of certainty, absolutely, but it's not necessarily true. It's true for them, but not true in the open world. So challenge people's assumptions around things. Typical things around this could be, when people say, I'm too young to be promoted, or I can't do that because I haven't been trained, or I can't afford it, I haven't got time, and all this sort of stuff that goes through people's heads. And they're not true. They're fabricated assumptions. So challenge people's assumptions on things as well. This is how coaching can really dig deep. Check on evidence. Show me, is that true? Show me evidence. Give the numbers. Show me the profile. Show me the thing that proves that point. And I had this with a client. We worked with some martial artists over in the UK, and one of their pet beliefs is you can't sell a martial arts training program in December. It's always quiet in December. You can't sell martial arts in December. And I said, well, why is that? Why do you think that's true? Well, because, and they have the evidence, everybody goes on holiday during December in the UK. And it's like, that's not true. I know it's not true. So I said, well, go prove it. And of course he couldn't. And everyone didn't go on holiday in the UK in December. It's ridiculous. Not everybody goes on holiday in August either in France. Is another one. So challenge, but evidence is a shield here. Show me. Don't accept their excuses. Don't accept their assumptions. Don't accept their knowledge. They don't know. It sounds very harsh. They don't know what they're doing. We've got to challenge these limiting beliefs they've got. Don't let them get away with it. So check on evidence. Different perspective. What other options have you got? What could you do? If you couldn't do that, how else could you fix it? Give me 3 choices that you can do here. Give me 3 things you could do. And when they come back and say, I don't know, this is where it's an instruction to think and respond. I don't care what the choices are, but you've got to give me 3. And they go, oh, okay. And they come with 3 crazy choices, maybe, whatever it happens to be. But I'm going to keep on pressing. A lot of coaches, we use a coaching approach, will say to somebody, ask them a question about, did you hit your objective for the month? And they'll go, no, I was too busy. And they go, oh, okay, that's great. Well, maybe we'll hit it next month then. Oh yeah, great, we'll do it next month. That's not coaching. Where's the accountability in that? If someone says to me they haven't hit their target, their objective, their goal this month or this week or this quarter, my questions then would be, what excuses have you told yourself that are valid about that? What have you told yourself that, what reasons have you got? What's your best excuse for that? What's your reason? What happened? What went wrong? What did you lose control of to not achieve the goal? Which is a horrible question to ask somebody. It is. It really challenges people to think, but that's my job. So coaching is an uncomfortable relationship as well. It just is sometimes. I have clients that I work with where they hang the phone up on me. They hate me. They write to me, I hate you. You can't talk to me like this. I don't pay you for this sort of support. Good. Now, I'm not going to recommend you have to do that, but I have to generate some emotional engagement in this. I'm not going to let them off the hook, providing it's in their best interest to move forwards and they're not doing it. My job is to hold them accountable and press them, push them. It doesn't happen very often. Most people are, they're all good with it. But if I need to hold people accountable and challenge them, then I will do that. Absolutely do. That's where the value in the coaching relationship comes. Nobody else is going to say this to them, but I will. Implications. What could happen if you did this well and you hit the target? What are the consequences going to be? What are the consequences of not doing this as well? What are the implications going to be for you if you don't achieve this? Get them to think about it in an emotional context, get them to build a picture for themselves. And question the question, why do you think I asked you that? It's a great question. Why do you think I chose that question? Or I would say to my clients when they're talking about what they're doing, and it could be health and well-being or fitness or relationships or business and career, whatever it is. And I'll say to them, what question don't you want me to ask you right now? And they know what it is. And they go, I don't want you to ask me about my diet plan. I don't want you to ask me about my career path. I don't want you to ask. They know what question they don't want me to be asking. But here's the thing, as a coach, I don't know what question to ask them, but they do. If that makes sense, I reflect it back to them. They choose their own poison and they're right. So I say, what question don't you want me to ask? And they go, whatever you do, don't ask me this one. I don't want to. That's great. Okay, well, guess what? Guess where we're going. So you can get to choose it because it means that there's in their currency, their conversation as well. So these are the sort of questioning approaches you can use, and it just takes a bit of practice. I have a list of sort of coaching questions I will use on a selective basis. And I use them when I think it's appropriate with people. Depends on their sort of personality and style, which I'll come on to in a second or two. There's a fabulous book here I'm going to recommend to you. Alan Pease, Questions Are the Answers. It's really a book. It's a sales book, but it's actually a psychology coaching book as well. So I recommend it. And he talks about having a framework of 5 dig deep questions. And this is where you have a conversation with somebody, and rather than just going on a very superficial level, what's your goal? I want to get a Ferrari. Okay, great. Good for you. See you next week. That doesn't cut it. So the first question in this series of 5 is, what's your number one priority? What is your number one priority, your number one goal or target or whatever it is? What's the one thing you really want to achieve? And they may say, I want to achieve working less, getting fit, being healthier, being promoted, achieving more, whatever it is. They'll tell you what the number one priority is. Then we don't stop there. And I'll do this with my clients. Next question. Well, why did you choose that? Why that one? Why did you choose fitness or health or whatever it is? Why did you choose that? And they've got to tell me, why is that the most important thing in your life, career, business, job, or role right now? Why is that? Why did you choose that one? And they tell me, and it'll be maybe because they want to, drop a dress size or feel better, run a marathon. Okay, well, great. Okay, but then, well, why is that important to you? Next level down. Why is that fitness, for example? Why is that important to you? Now, it's obvious that fitness is important to all of us because it means we don't keel over and collapse on the pavement. But there's going to be a reason for that person that this is very important. So one of the, for example, our conversation went with one of my clients in the UK, and I said to him, what do you want? What do you want? Number one priority. And he said, I want a Ferrari. I want a Ferrari car. Okay, great. Middle-aged guy running his own business with his wife, mid-50s, bit of a cliche almost, want a Ferrari, but okay. Why did you choose that? Why did you choose a Ferrari? He said, well, I've had Ferraris on my calendars. I love the cars. I've got a baseball cap. I've been to the factory. I've been in a car. I've rented one. He's a Ferrari fan. He loves the Formula One team, all this sort of thing. It's a Ferrari fan. Okay, so why is having a Ferrari important to you? And now we're digging deeper. Now, why do you think a middle-aged guy wants a Ferrari? What's the cliche? Just type it in. Why do you think a middle-aged bloke wants a Ferrari? Just give it to me, Square. What do you think it is? What's the number one reason middle-aged men want Ferraris? Just type it in. I'm interested in your thoughts. I think I know what it is, but why do you think a middle-aged guy wants a Ferrari? Yes, there you go. Couldn't get it when he was young. He's reliving his youth. He can afford it now. He also, you think middle-aged men look cool in Ferraris. They don't. They really don't. But still, masculinity replacement, absolutely. All sort. Yeah, yes to all these sort of things. But that was my assumption, and we're all here making assumptions on things, which, from a coaching perspective, we don't want to do. So, why is that important to you? What are the consequences of not getting the Ferrari? And this is where it got really interesting, because what he said was, at this point, he said, well, the real reason I want a Ferrari, he said, because he said, I've had quadruple heart bypass surgery. So his heart wasn't very strong. He said, and I don't know how long I've got left. I'm on medication, also I'm okay. He said, but I don't know how long I've got left. But at my funeral, I want people to talk about me as Chris, the bloke who had the Ferrari. That was it. It was a funeral thing for him, like a legacy thing. He wanted to be known as the guy who had the Ferrari because he didn't know how long got left. And why would that worry you? Because he wants his legacy to be stronger. So this went all the way from, and I agree with as everybody's thing on here, Anna as well, to prove he's accomplished in life. Absolutely. That's what we think it would be. But actually, for him, it wasn't. It really wasn't that. It was just so he could have this thing, be seen to have it, and then be remembered for having it. So when I'm working with him in terms of his business, this is some years ago now, we got the budget, the forecast, all done. He got the Ferrari, still with us now. He's a good buddy of mine now. He's a good lad. He's still alive, thank goodness. He's doing okay. But he got the Ferrari. And I went to the garage to pick it up with him, and he was just like a kid at Christmas. Literally walked into the Ferrari showroom. There his car was under a sheet, ready to be collected. It was a Ferrari 430, and it was just stunning. It's a piece of art, you know. It's stunning. Jumped in it, off we went. He kept it for about 6 months and sold it. That was it. He didn't want to keep it. He wanted just to have it. So we've got to be real careful when people's goals and targets and objectives, and we all do this. You know, why does somebody want a Ferrari? Well, because it's prove is accomplished, and all this sort of thing. And we then need to figure out what's the real purpose, what's the real driver, what's the real reason behind it. And if I can find that with somebody, then I can hold them accountable to it. So when he's not doing his homework or doing whatever he's going to be doing his reading or something like that, I can say to him, you know, that Ferrari you wanted, it's just got a bit further away from you right now. Oh, okay. I can hold him accountable to his dream, and then the activity turns up. So dig deep questions is a real good start point for these sort of things. And the better the questions, the better the outcome. And it's all staging your coaching conversations. 5 whys now. Yeah, thank you. 5 whys. And that just popped up on the chat screen. Yes, why do people do things? What's their drive, or what's their real passion and purpose? But the better questions that we ask as coaches, the deeper we get on an emotional relationship level, and the more traction we get, because people buy into it. They go with us on the journey. Now, this might be slightly different if you're working with somebody in your team. If you're their boss and their coach, they're not going to tell you all these things, maybe, but the same principle sort of applies. It's with the beach bar in Curacao with this guy in Luxembourg. He's not going to tell his boss that. I'm sure his boss doesn't know about that. That's between me and him, and that's it. That's what really drives him. Now, he's doing a great job. He's got promoted. He's been promoted twice now, which is all on track. 2 promotions in 18 months. So we're doing the right things. He's getting there, but his boss thinks he's doing it for the good of the business. And he is doing it for the good of the business. Business is doing great. It's really good. It's flying along. But the reason he's doing it, or to pick up on that comment there, why is he doing it? The why is beach bar in Curacao. That's it. And he said to me, when I get the beach bar in Curacao, he said, I want you to be my first customer as well. Okay, deal. You know, I'll fly to Curacao. That'd be great. And be his first client, first customer. So I want to know their personal goals and objectives by asking these questions. Then I can hold them accountable to their personal goals and aspirations, which motivates them to do more work and activity in the business as they go along. So that's a very general overview there of the sort of coaching approach. It's questions, it's structured. It's based on start point, end point, and process, and it's done in a scheduled way. I don't allow the coaching to be ad hoc and random. It's got to be fixed point. And my clients work with me every week, same time, 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. When I bang, bang, bang. I've had clients who've been on the same time slot with me now for, gosh, 12 years, 14 years. Every Wednesday morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, I have a conversation with a client via Zoom, and we've been doing that for 14 years. Regular, it's a habit, it's a pattern. He's never late, he's always on time, he's doing great, and we have that relationship, coaching relationship, structured. He's still getting value from it. He's still growing and developing, as I would not be here. But that's the overall sort of process of structuring a coaching conversation. So at that point, I was going to sort of pause for a second and invite you to ask me. There's lots more to go yet, by the way. But any questions, anything that I could repeat again or explain better, or any thoughts and observations, please type them in, and I'll do my very best to answer now or find out. Is it making sense? Just give me a yes or a thumbs up or something, and I'll know that everybody's awake. Or please just type something in. So, what questions do you have? Remember, it's an instruction to think, not just to sit and do nothing as well. Any questions? Just type it in, and I'll do my very best. I'm just going to grab a quick drink of water. I didn't know I could talk so much, actually. Okay, no questions. Everybody happy? Is it making sense? Yes, I'm going to take that as a, oh, I think somebody's typing. I can see somebody typing, I hope. This is your opportunity to pin me down, you see. Okay, no, Oh, do I have any subordinates doing the same? Not so much subordinates, actually, but we do have other coaches delivering on our products and programs on our behalf. Yes, they're independents, and we're at the stage, just out of interest, we're at the stage of we're franchising what we do, so we're going to have a network of coaches doing this. So I don't have subordinates as such. Our company's only got there's 5 people in my company. There's me, Lynn, my wife, my boss, who Sarah knows, John, our eldest son, works with us all the IT, the tech, and the marketing, and we've got a beagle and a Labrador dog as well as the 5 of us. So not really subordinate, but a network of, absolutely, yeah, network of people, yeah.
And David, when you're franchising, do you apply the same mechanism or would it be different?
Very similar, very similar. And this comes what we do. For example, if I'm teaching an in-house executive coach to work within a company, I have the same toolkit, but they have to use their own personality and style and approach. So how I coach is slightly different than other people because of my personality, style, and background. So it's sort of 80% the same in terms of the approach and the techniques and the toolkit, but they apply their own, as I'm sure everybody on this conversation would, you apply your own style to it as well.
Yeah, because I assume, one thing is coach somebody else's employee to be more and more successful, to have a bar in Curacao, yeah? The other thing would be building your franchise and knowing that the goal of your employees is just to earn something and run away.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you look at the objectives of an employee, and if their objective is to get out of there and go to, then it depends. What I found is, however, is if you enable people to achieve their goals. Look, if somebody's going to leave an organization, they're going to leave whether you coach them or not. Actually, they're going to leave. That's one of those things. If they want to achieve something significant while they're with you, and you can help them grow and build and develop in that timescale, the organization still wins because they contribute more, they achieve more, and they do more than the organization. They may leave, but I think that they may leave anyway. It's a real challenge for organizations.
Yeah, it's a valid point. Yeah,
yeah, it is, because do you train and guide people so they leave, or what happens if you don't train them and they stay? This is the whole thing. It's a real balance, and I get it. It's a real challenge for organizations. I think the view, my personal view, is I would want to enable people to flourish and do the very best that they can with the time they're with me. And I've had my own companies in the past. I want them to do a great job while they're with me, have fun, enjoy it, make a big contribution. If they leave and go somewhere else, well, you know what? That's all part of the process.
That
really
totally makes sense. And I mean, I'm glad that you said this out loud, because it's good to hear it. I think this is really that we should be all aware.
I think so. It's a fact of life in business that, I don't, again, I see this from the clients I work with. It's sort of slightly off tangent, but it's a great point, is do you want your employees, your team, to stay with you for 30 years? Well, maybe you don't. A bit of flow can be good. Great people come into the organization, they stay with you, do a great job. You can promote them, they can leave, or they can go within the organization. But actually, I think on balance, a gentle flow of great people coming through an organization can be better than having a fixed team that stay put for 30, 40 years. I just think I'd go with the flow, I think, if I could choose. But yeah, but it's a challenge. It is a challenge in business as well. That's a great point. Great point you make. Thank you. Okay, so if there's no more questions, we'll go on. I want to go through some of the principles now, the sort of psychology and the mechanisms of coaching now. So pressure to move. There's a formula for change called Gleitcher's formula. You can Google it and have a look at it. And it's what motivates us to make a change. And this is how it looks. D times V times F greater than R. And what it basically means is we have a level of dissatisfaction, unhappiness with things. We're uncertain about things, don't like the way things are going, dissatisfaction. A high level of dissatisfaction with something, however, is not enough to overcome that R at the end, which is resistance to change. The fact that I'm unhappy with something. How many people do you know in life that stay unhappy all their lives? They never change. They're unhappy, but they don't actually do anything about it. This could be within a job, a role, a career. It could be within a relationship. It could be anything you like, but they are always unhappy about things, and yet they don't change. They don't move. They don't do what they've got to do. So there's something missing in the formula. The V aspect to this is vision. What's the goal? What's the vision? What's the outcome? What's the future look like? So if I've got a huge dissatisfaction about something in my job, my life, my career, my relationships, that's not enough. I also need to know, what do I want? What do I want? Most people go through life knowing what they don't want. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be fired. I don't want to go bankrupt. I don't want. And my question to them is, great, I understand you don't want all that. What do you want? And that's a much more specific question, because they don't know. All I know is I don't want to go bankrupt. All I know is I don't want this. I don't want to be in the, I don't want to be around this person. I don't want to be in this situation. Okay, I get that. What do you want? Now, from a coaching perspective, I want to know what the dissatisfaction is. Absolutely. What's irritating them, what's bringing them down. I also need to know, what's the vision? What do you want? My mom came across, my mum's from the UK, we're in France, as you know. She came across years ago, first time to France, about 10 years ago. I went to a restaurant, and being British, she thought she could speak French, and she can't. But anyway, I got to the restaurant, sat down, the waiter came across, and they were saying, we're ready to order. And my mom said, she said, I don't like garlic, I don't want the prawns, and I can't eat chicken. That was it. And the waiter went, very good. What do you want? And she had no clue. And wait, we got the food ordered. He went away and came back with the food. And my mom said, you know what she said? I spent my whole life, I've known exactly what I didn't want to have happen in my life. And she said, normally it did, but I didn't figure out what I did want. And unfortunately, a lot of people go through life and career and relationships like this. So I want to know dissatisfaction and vision. If I've got 10, from a mathematical point of view, 10 out of 10 on dissatisfaction, but 0 vision, 10 times 0, 0, doesn't overcome resistance to change. So I need to know both. And the F is for first steps. What are you going to do? What's your plan? What's the structure? My role as coach is to give them the first steps. So first up, we're going to do this. You're going to read this book. You're going to learn this. You're going to consider that. You can do a plan, do a dream board, do a vision board, whatever it is. Do something tangible to move things forwards. D times V, if D is 10, V is 10, and first steps are simple and straightforward. 10 times 10 times 10 will overcome the 10 out of 10 resistance to change. Most people have high D, high dissatisfaction. They don't have high level of vision. So from a coaching perspective, I want to really dig around. What do you want? Why is that important to you? The golden questions. Then I can build the balance, and people will do amazing things when, and you don't have to do this as a mathematical formula. It's a mindset thing, really. But you probably know yourselves, there are things in your life and career and business, things you really don't want. If you want to move on from that, the great start point is, well, what do you want? You know, what do you want? I remember my dad back in the 1970s, he had an old car, and he hated this car. I remember it, he hated it. And he was, this thing, it's useless, it's rubbish, I don't like it, doesn't start, it keeps breaking down, things falls off it. And I wish I could go back and say to him, great, okay, I get it, what do you want? What sort of car do you want? And then he would have fixed it. But he tolerated this old wreck of a car for years. He was really unhappy with it. He tolerated it, he hated it. But he never figured out what he did want. So finding out what we do want is a great way forwards in terms of the pressure and motivation to move. Some people think, and I will touch on this a little bit later on as well, all you need is vision. I've got a goal, I've got a vision, I've got a dream, I'm going to go for it. They're motivated by goals. Not the case in my experience. It is motivating, but it's not the only thing we need. There's an NLP framework I'm going to run through to explain about motivation theory and how you can tap into it. But we need basically dissatisfaction and vision. Equally, if somebody's got a fabulous goal, you know, the beach bar in Curaçao, that's great, but there must be dissatisfaction behind that. That's not enough, because I'm not dissatisfied from where I am. I'm not going to move away from it, because we inherently like our comfort zones, our comfort places. To get me out of my comfort zone, I've got to become uncomfortable by definition, which is dissatisfaction. I need that, and I need the vision to know where I'm going. Then we can move forwards. And this is part of the framework. Now, I show this formula to my clients. I say, look, to get you to move, I need to go through this with you. And they go, right, okay, got it. Now, they either have big vision, great, or big dissatisfaction. Very few at the early stages have both. They have a little bit of one and whatever, but very rarely both at the same extent. So when I find out what the gap is the gap dissatisfaction or is it vision? I'm going to work on that. I'm going to dig around it and really work on it and embellish it and make it big and bright and powerful for them. Then they become self-motivated. My job's not to motivate people, it's to encourage and give them a framework within which they achieve amazing things. And once they have dissatisfaction and vision and a plan and first steps, then away they go. I don't have to do anything. They're off. They just let me know what they're doing. And it's a hands-off approach. They get momentum and I don't have to force it. They do all the work, which is, I don't watch this video, but it's how it works. That's when it really works well. So that's pressure to move is one thing.
May I have a question at this point?
Of course.
I had a team where I would periodically figure out that there would be a couple of people that would have D extremely high.
Yep.
And absolutely zero idea about the V.
Yep.
And therefore, I mean, my job would be to figure out their F.
Yep.
And without being able to get their V,
yep.
What my coping mechanism with this was that I stopped caring about their D.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, this D was not important anymore, and these people are still in the company.
Right. Okay. You just ignore it and it goes away.
Yeah, I just ignore it. But then, I mean, getting this formula out in the plane,
yeah,
I would show them this formula and I would poke them for their V.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's something. It doesn't have to be a life-changing, transformational, whatever, just something they want to achieve, what they want to, maybe I have a client, for example, true story, a client, all that she wanted was have a weekend off. That was it. She was working so hard in her job. All she wanted was a weekend off, just a weekend away with a partner and with the kids. Great, simple things. So we did that and she got the weekend off. That was hugely motivating for her. And when she came back, the V had changed then, so then it became the 2-week holiday. Then it became doing a 4-day week, and then all this sort of thing. So it doesn't have to be a miraculous, amazing, transformational goal or anything. Just something. That
because having only D, it looks like you're being a passive, or in a way passive aggressive. Yep. But putting V yourself in, you show some activity.
Absolutely.
And then I mean, if you have this, then I mean, I assume the role of the coach or the lead or whatever is to figure out F.
Absolutely, yeah. As coaches and leaders, we've got to show them the path. Here's what we're going to do. We give them the framework and the structure. And this is why, again, in my experience, the coaching is transactional. I will give people the toolkit, the strategy, the tactics to move forwards. Otherwise, if they don't know what to do or where to go and how to do this, they just stand still. They have dissatisfaction and vision, but they have no clue how to bring it to life. And part of my job, I think, and a coach's job is to bring it to life with these transactional first steps. Absolutely. Yeah, show them the way forwards.
Thank you.
Okay, pleasure. So I work on this. That's a mindset one. I also want to work on their focus. When we moved, we went to the US for a few years, lived and worked over there. And I always wanted to buy a motorbike. And I've never had a bike in my life before, bought a Harley Davidson, as you do. So I bought this Harley Davidson. And I was trained how to ride the motorbike in a car park of the Hard Rock Hotel in the middle of Las Vegas when we lived over there. And some of the lessons were really interesting. And I don't know if anybody here rides a motorbike, but I'm on this bike and the guy came out and he said, look, he said, a couple of lessons on a bike. First lesson is when you're on a motorbike, whatever you look at, you will hit. That's wherever your head goes, the bike goes. Look left, the bike goes left. Look right, the bike goes right. And it's like, wow. But that's true in life as well. So imagine me on my bike. This is the story he told me. He said, look, you're on your bike, going around a bend. And he said, as you go around the bend, there's a tree on the apex of the bend. He said, where do you look? I said, well, no, he said, don't look at the tree. Don't look, whatever you do, don't look at the tree. If you look at the tree, you're going to hit it. And it's true. I'm not recommending you do this, but if you're on a motorbike, and if you do ride a bike, when you go around a bend or anything like this, you see an obstacle or a tree or a bollard or something, don't look at it, because as soon as you look at it, you tend to draw towards it. You just do. My focus should be the exit, the destination, the end point, the goal, the target, and the same in life. So what I do with my clients from a coaching perspective is there's things in life and in careers and jobs and businesses, there's obstacles and problems and challenges and stuff goes on we don't want. But part of my job is to focus on the end game, on the target, on the V, the goal, the objective, the outcome. They stay focused on that. They don't hit the tree. They're still there. The problem doesn't go away, but they don't hit it. They focus on outcomes and achievement and goals and mindset, not the challenge. And I can always tell when somebody's focusing on the negative, because in the early stages of a coaching relationship, I'll say to people, for example, how's your week? Have you got on? And they'll go, oh, well, I had to take the cat to the vets, couldn't do my job. I couldn't do this. The laptop broke. I spilled coffee over my computer. All this sort of drama and stuff and crap. They throw it all out. Now, that's because they're focusing on the negatives. Now, what I look for, and this is one of the typical conversations that you'll get when the people you're coaching, when you say, how was your week or how was your month or whatever it is, they should be saying things like the positives. So we did this, we achieved that, we did that. Now, I know in that month, they've spilled coffee on their laptop as well. They've taken the dog to the vet or whatever it is. All the same stuff has happened to them, but it's not their focus. They remain focused on the front. Stuff happens. It doesn't impact on their performance. And my job is to keep them focused, eyes front, on the goal, on the target, on the objective. And we sort of ignore all the junk that goes on. Now, we've all got junk in our companies and businesses and lives and things like that we sort of don't want, that are sort of dissatisfaction points. My job is to hold them accountable to the future. And so these challenges just evaporate. But if they focus on the negative, guess what you're going to get? What you focus on, what we focus on, all of us, what we focus on will become manifest to you. If you focus on the bright and the positive and the potential, guess what you're going to get? If you focus on the negative, guess what you're going to get? You get what you focus on. So part of the job of a coach is to keep focused on the front, on the goals and targets as well. So it's a key rule of coaching, and the coaching relationship that I have with my clients is they can't use negative language. I don't want to know about the drama that's gone in their lives and their business, or why they were late for their meeting or whatever it is. It's an interesting one on timekeeping. Actually, I have a deal with all my clients that if I'm ever late for an appointment or a Zoom call or whatever it is, if I'm ever late and I haven't let them know and we haven't rearranged it or something, if I'm just late, even by a minute, they get a bottle of champagne from me as an apology. They get a bottle. Now, in the last 20 years, I've given away, I think it's only about 5 bottles of champagne for that reason. So I'm very keen on timing, because if somebody comes to one of my meeting with me, or they come to a meeting with you and they're late, well, what's their excuse for being late? And they'll say it was the traffic, or I couldn't, whatever, I'm not interested. That's all drama, gets in the way of achievement. So get there on time. All my clients, guaranteed, every week on a Zoom call, I start the Zoom at sort of, a minute to the hour, whatever it is. And they're on there. So Becerra and I were talking for 5 minutes pre this workshop. I think hopefully, Becerra, you knew I would be here in plenty of time. Of course I would. I knew you would be as well. We hit the ground running, had a chat before the conversation. You guys turned up on time as well, so thank you for that. Away we go. But if they're late, they've got to buy me a bottle of champagne as well. It works both ways. So I've had a couple of bottles of champagne given to me. But these are rules of the game: discipline and structure and performance, and we hold accountable to it. So there's got to be consequences in the relationship. So what I do, I have this my baseball bat as a consequence, but I will find people. Now, I know if you're in an organization, maybe you can't do this, but I have one client in the UK, and she was not doing her homework. She just wasn't doing what she agreed to do. She wasn't doing it, wasn't making progress. And I said to her, what do you prefer, cats or dogs? She said, I'm allergic to cats. I don't like cats, hate cats. I love dogs. Okay, great. I said, look, so next week, if you haven't achieved your goals, I'm going to make a contribution to a charity of my choosing with your credit card. Is that okay? She went, well, not really. But anyways, I said, well, look, it's £50 if you haven't done your homework, and I'm going to give the money to a cat charity, like a double whammy. So good for the cats. She hates cats. And of course, she did her homework and off we went. So I have that accountability with my clients in a fun way as well. It's not too harsh, but we're serious about this. If we do a deal, we're going to do something or be somewhere or show up somewhere on time. Imagine if I'd have been late on this conversation. I came in at 10 past the hour or something. That's not okay. That's just not, I wouldn't do that anyway. That's not okay at all. So consequences. So there's consequences of not achieving something, but also rewards for achieving something. If one of the clients gets a great win or they achieve something, hit a target or do something great, we send them a congratulations card or a box of chocolates or something to recognize a win, or we might, bung them a theatre ticket or a cinema ticket and this sort of thing. Important they celebrate the wins as much as we hold them accountable to not doing their homework. So celebrate the wins with people. People love to celebrate and mark the occasion. It might be anything they choose, whatever they choose. When they achieve it, celebrate or congratulate, at least, mark the occasion. And I've celebrated people's wins for doing some things that aren't really amazing, but they make definite progress. They do something, they have a conversation with their boss, or they prepare a presentation and deliver it well, or whatever it is. They do something, they achieve something. Celebrate, mark the occasion. Coaching should be a fun relationship. It should be on balance, fun and energizing. I want my clients to look forward to speaking with me on a weekly basis. They may have a tough conversation from time to time, but overall, I want them to enjoy the process, get great value, have a bit of fun, bit of engagement, and enjoy as they build their business as well. But there's got to be consequences, positive and negative. So then when we look at, how do we, optimistic, not pessimistic, not. Absolutely, yeah. If you go into a meeting or a networking event or something like this, and you can always spot the positive people because they're all hanging out together, aren't they? They're always the ones that are sort of happy, celebrating, they're laughing, they're joking, they're talking to each other. And there'll be another group over here that aren't. Well, which one do you want to go and join? Do you want to join the happy group or the pessimistic group? I'll go down the happy group, thanks. But that's where we focus, because what we focus on in life becomes manifest to us. So, great, good point. Thank you. So why don't we change? What does coaching work? Why don't we just change ourselves? Because whether you're in a sales environment, a management environment, or leadership environment, or just want to change your diet, your fitness regime, your career, or your lifestyle, whatever it is, fundamentally, we don't like change. And it's a strange one, but I found it to be true for myself, and I do see it for other people as well. And the reason is because we're pattern seekers. If you imagine back in old history, walking across the savannah, the African plains, this sort of thing, and our ancestors, they hear rumbling in the grass, something in the grass, we can't see it. There's something rustling in the grass. Well, what is it? Now, what's rustling in the grass? What is it that's over there? What could it be? Now, what's our assumption going to be when we hear something that we don't know about? We're unsure. It's uncertain. Well, it could be a child that needs some help and support. It could be a wounded deer that could be our next lunch or something, or it could be a lion. Now, what's it safest to assume? It's safest to assume it's something that's going to jump out and kill us. It's safest to assume, given uncertainty, this is the rule. Where there's uncertainty, it's safest to assume it's dangerous. Therefore, we avoid it. So we don't like change. We like to know what's comfortable for us. Where something is uncertain or difficult or is unknown to us, we assume the worst. We just do, because it's a safety mechanism. We assume the worst, therefore we avoid it. And this is what happens with change from a coaching perspective. So when we're looking at changing people's behaviors and lives and outcomes, this is why it can be uncomfortable, because we want to stay safe and secure. If I don't go in the grass, I'm never going to get eaten by a lion. I don't take the risk. Fundamentally, most of us, I think, as a species, are risk averse. In degrees, some of us, I'm reasonably good with risk. I'll jump in and take some risks, but I'm not going to do anything stupid around wild animals and crocodiles, So we are risk averse to a degree. We don't like change, and we think we do, but actually we don't. Given the choice, we probably don't. And you can check this out. If you do, if I do a workshop, for example, and you may see this when you have a meeting with people, or like you're doing a workshop or something like this, and you have the workshop, you have a lunch break in the middle or a coffee break, where everybody sits in that workshop. When they go out the room for a coffee break or whatever it is, and they come back in, where do they sit? Well, they sit back in the same seats as they left before. And I say to people, why are you sat in the same places? And they have no clue. It's automatic, autopilot. They go back. One called, my bag's here, my laptop's here. Oh yeah, okay, but why don't you move? Sit next to somebody else. Oh no, this is my seat. This is my place. And we've tested this out a few times where you get they leave the room, and you get somebody else. So, right, you just sit at that chair there where you weren't sat before that other person gets in. And the other person, when they walk in and see the other person sat in their chair, they don't like it. They will, what are you doing there? I was sat there. Well, yeah, you were, but we are very parochial and very protective over our zones. We don't like change. So part of the coaching relationship is to recognize that. And then we've got to enable people to get uncomfortable. This is why coaching is a challenging relationship. It's not just a conversation, a happy conversation. Yes, we are. Absolutely. Yes, we are. Yeah, we are. Exactly. Our brains are a major reason for energy consumption. We save energy where we can. We stay put. We do nothing when we can because it's better for energy conservation. You're absolutely right. So we want to stay put. But our job, from a coaching perspective, is to enable, encourage, or even force people to a degree to get uncomfortable. And we call it comfort zone. So where we operate on a day-to-day basis is here. We're comfortable. We're okay. On this call, for example, we're all pretty comfortable, I hope. I'm comfortable doing this. I enjoy doing this. It's all very good. And I'm happy. I'm in my comfort zone. For me to progress and do something different, to grow, do something different and build and develop my results, and the same for you as well, you've got to learn new things. You've got to change and do something different. You've got to adapt, learn new skills. And the challenge with learning new skills is they can go wrong. That's a risk. We don't want to do that. We want to stay put. So I want to get people into this learning change zone. What I don't want to do is get them into the panic zone. If I put too much pressure on people, they will panic. So, for example, I have a client in Luxembourg, and we've been together for about 3 years now. When we first started, he said to me, he said, look, he said, of all the things we're going to do together, please don't ever get me to do a video or do a presentation on stage. I can't do it. I feel nervous. It makes me ill. I can't do presentations. I'm never going to do a video. Don't even go there. Now, if on week one of our coaching relationship, I'd have forced him to go and do a presentation to 500 people on stage and have a video recorded, he would have gone into panic mode, fight or flight, and he would have collapsed on the floor, and it would have been horrible. That's not my job. So what I do, if I think that's a good thing for him to do at some point, I'm going to move in baby steps towards that. And what happened was, I encouraged him to do a video on YouTube and circulate it onto LinkedIn as well. And he really didn't want to do it. Anyway, his wife said to me, they're in the business together, she said, well, he's done a video. Actually, he's done a video. If it's a him, and he's dancing with our teenage daughter to an MTV music channel. He's in a little dress. She's in a little dress. They're just messing around, dancing to a music video. I said, that'd be great. That'd be perfect. She said, do you think we should put it up on LinkedIn? I said, I think it'd be perfect. So what do you think? She said, I think we should, but it could be quite provocative. Anyway, put the video up onto LinkedIn, on YouTube as well. It almost went viral. I think it was 15, 20,000 views. That one video transformed people's perception of him, his visibility. Now he does presentations, he does workshops, he's doing videos, interviewing, podcasts, and he's broken through. He's gone through it. But if I'd have allowed him to stay in his comfort zone, would never have done it. His business in the last 2 years has trebled in revenues. They're building their team, they're growing, they're going international, and they're doing great. They're doing fabulous. Not because he went into this uncomfortable zone of doing something different, taking the risk and pushing people along. My job was to nudge him along into that discomfort zone, the learning and change zone. That's where coaching lives. in the change zone, not comfort. It's uncomfortable to work with a coach. Be okay with making people not panicking, but slightly uncomfortable. That's where it comes from. That's where it comes from. Now, when you want to make change permanent, this is why it's sort of challenging, if you like. I like this model. I use this when I explain to people about motivating others or coaching or just leading people in organizations. How do you make somebody sort of change in a person permanent? What do you have to do? Well, I use this. This is called Robert Hooke. He did a thing called Hooke's Law. Anybody who's done science or sort of high school physics will probably come across this thing. It's basically all about springs. Make it so spring, yeah, make it a habit, absolutely. Now, here's what happened. This is the way it works. So this is a spring suspended. I hang a weight on that spring and it extends the spring. It stretches. So I pull the spring down, it stretches it. Then I take that weight off the spring and immediately the spring goes back to its original position. It hasn't changed. It's stretched and it's gone back to its old position again. This is what happens with management and leadership and sort of mediocre coaching or short-term interventions. It moves people for a while, they change, they go to the gym for 3 months, but they don't continue forward with it. They go on a diet for 6 weeks and they don't continue with it. They don't get permanent change. So they are stretched a little bit, the pressure is taken off, and then the JoJo effect, absolutely. And then you take the weight off and it goes back again. If I apply more weight to that spring, 2 kilograms this time, the extension is twice as much. 1 kilo does that, 2 kilos does that. So 2 times the stretch. But even then, when I take the pressure off, when the coaching conversation is finished or the coaching program is finished, take the weight off, bang, they go back to normal again. No change. They snap back to comfort, to their original state. We haven't achieved state change, which is dangerous. Now, what we need to do is I need to put a big weight on the spring, but a ton on it, and it stretches it a lot. It really stretches it, and that is uncomfortable. It stretches people in all sorts of ways. They don't like it. It's stressful. They feel challenged by it. Their pulse rates will increase. Their emotions will come out. They'll push back on things. I don't want to do this. I'm feeling uncomfortable. I don't feel happy doing this. Good, get on with it, push through, keep going. That's what coaching is about. Now, when I take that amount of pressure off people, they only sustain it in the short term, remove the big pressure, they do snap back, but not to where they went before. The spring has stretched. Their state has changed. They've made a positive change in their habits, in their life, in their career, in their job, whatever it is. So be prepared from a coaching perspective. Be prepared to make people feel uncomfortable. It shouldn't be, in my experience, of just a gentle, lovely conversation. Hi, how are you doing? I've had coaches give me coaching sessions as part of their training. They want to give me a coaching session. So I sit there and I have them talk to me over Zoom or on the phone or something like this. And they will start off by saying, well, how's your week? What were the best thing about the week? What are the wins you've had this week? I go, here's the wins I've had this week. This been great. Okay, that's great. Thanks very much. Well, have a good week and I'll speak to you next week. Okay, that's great. Next week, they give me a call again and what wins have you had? How's your week? It's all very positive and cuddly and fluffy and it's great. It feels lovely. I look forward to the call. It's great. But I have those conversations with my mom, not with my coach. I want my coach to hold me accountable, to challenge my behaviors, my beliefs, my mindset, my routines, and push me such that I feel uncomfortable, but achieving more, learning more. I have worked with a number of coaches in my career over the years to help me with my mindset, with my approach, with my skills, or whatever it is. And I've got a marketing coach working with us right now, and they're great. They help us, they guide us, they kick us when they need to. But I know I want to feel slight discomfort. I want to feel uncomfortable in that coaching conversation because that's where permanent change comes from. If you're not feeling, or your clients or your coachees aren't feeling uncomfortable, well, then they're not going to move. They don't need you to have just a conversation with them. That's what their friends do. Now, I'll be friendly with my clients. Of course, I'm friendly with them, but they know I'm going to press them as well. I'm going to push them, ask them the questions they don't want to be asked, basically, and they're going to feel slightly uncomfortable, which is a good thing. I do it from a point of integrity. I do it from a point of love with all my clients and support. I never attack and I never demean them, nothing like that at all. It's always from a point of view as I'm doing this for your good, in your best interests. I'm going to make you feel uncomfortable, and I'll show them this slide before we start. And they'll go, right, I get it. So expect to feel uncomfortable. Expect to hate me from time to time. You're not going to like me being around. I'm going to be uncomfortable to be around for you. And they get it. They enjoy it. They develop from it. It's part of the relationship, and they look forward to it as well. So it's creating lasting change as part of the coaching relationship. Discomfort is part of it. So the dissatisfaction, the D times V, this is part of the dissatisfaction. Discomfort as well. We need discomfort. Most of us, I think, I look forward to your feedback on this one, but I think most of us in business and career, we tend to do our best work when our back's against the wall, when the problems are there. We have to come out swinging. We do our best work, then we've got no choice, and we tend to throttle back a bit when things are going easy. So part of our job as coaches is to put people's back against the wall, push them a little bit to come out and do their best work as well. That's this creating lasting change through tension and pressure. So it's getting towards 3:30 here now, so halfway point. I thought what I want to move on to next, just so you know, is how do you know what questions to ask, and look at people's personalities and motivations and some generalized principles and theory around coaching. Are there any questions right now you'd like to ask me? Otherwise, what I thought we could do is have a 10-minute natural break, if you like, go and grab a coffee, toilet break, have a cigarette, that sort of thing. But any questions before we go, and then we'll park it for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and go for the second half, if that's okay. But any questions right now, just please type them in. And if not, it's absolutely fine. We can park this and come back in 10 minutes. So no questions. Everybody happy? Is it making sense? Anybody making sense? Just give me a nod or a thumbs up or something would be great, just so I know you're awake and you're still with me. Perfect. Thank you, Elena. You're my favorite person now because you're typing into the chat box. That's great. Excellent. Thank you. Yes. Excellent. Okay, good. So what I'll do, I'm going to stop recording. I'll shut my camera and microphone down. 10 minutes back here at 22, if that's okay, and we'll kick off again for the second half, and then I've got some more exciting bits to go through for you. So I'll see you in 10 minutes. Go and grab a coffee, grab a tea, grab a cigarette if you need to, and I'll see you back here at 22. Resume recording, and we'll just make sure everybody is back, and then we'll kick off again. But Sarah, hi. So we'll give another minute till 22, then we've started recording again, and we can kick off, I think. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to assume everybody's back and we're good to go. Again, if any questions before we go any further, anything you'd like me to go over again or refresh or explain, just please type it in. I hope it's making sense, but any questions, just type it in and I'll do my very best to come back. If not, is absolutely fine. I will blast on. So okay, so eyes down for the second half. So in a coaching relationship, hopefully I've got this, the principle of questioning, I hope, is there, and discomfort and the framework and the structure. But how do you know what questions to ask? How do you know how to treat a client? I have a range of people I work with, and as I say, some people take 7 or 8 minutes on a coaching conversation. Other people take a full hour. It doesn't matter, but there's a different approach and a different style. Some people want to talk about the weather, the cat, the dog, the kids, all that sort of thing before we talk about business. Other people don't want to talk about those sort of things. They want to get straight into it and, in, out, results, targets, good job, see you next week, and away you go. Both are fine. It doesn't matter which is which. It's just understanding how do we assess these things? So what I do, and what I recommend that you may do, or something similar to this with the people you're working with as coachees, if you like, is have some sort of personality test, personality profile done. So all the people I work with, for example, we invite them to do this. It's a DISC, Myers-Briggs type personality profile, and this gives me an idea of what they are like, what their personality is like, which enables me to understand how I should behave as their coach. And the DISC profile, I'll give you a quick overview just in a second. What it measures is 4 key attributes of a person's personality. It's number 1 is their D, dominance. Are they a very dominant person? Are they, decisive? They want to be in front, leading, making the decisions, happy to be, be sort of slightly unpopular. Donald Trump, if you like, this sort of thing, very high dominant character. Or are they a low dominant character, more passive, more go with the flow, more of a team player, maybe, that sort of thing. I, for influence, are they highly social? Are they good with people? Are they the life and soul of the party? Do they enjoy being around people? Do they get their energy from other people, or do they get their energy from themselves? So a high I type person, he wants to be liked, wants to be center of attention. They tend to be very good socially. They want to be around other people all the time. A low I person will be maybe more typically introvert, more solitary. They don't need other people to get their energy from. They're quite happy in their own space, and they don't need others to be around them. That's a low I type person. S for steadiness. Do people like things to be predictable? They want the future to be predicted. High S type people don't like confrontation. They don't like change. They don't like risk. It's a very high S type person, wants to be in a very safe, secure place and not have big change applied to them. Unusual from a coachee perspective, because if someone doesn't like change and doesn't like risk at a very high level, as a coach, I become toxic to them because I'm encouraging them to do this sort of work. I've worked with high S type people, and they're great people, but they do it at a much slower pace than maybe the sort of the high Ds go at. So look at pace of change, pace of growth as well. And then C, conscientiousness or compliance. These are people they need. A high C would want framework, structure, procedures, protocols, and detail. They want detail. What's it going to look like? What's this going to look like? Where are we going? What's the roadmap? What's the structure? Whereas a low C, low compliance, low C type person, they sort of go with the flow, much more make it up on the spot. They'll go with it. They'll create things. They'll just do what's got to be done, but they don't need sort of a workbook. They don't need a plan and a structure for it. So that's the personality profile I would recommend, or something similar, because it enables me to be a good coach for these people. So how it shows up, and we'll use me as a sort of an example, if you like. This is the DISC personality profiling. So dominance, influence, stability, and compliance. So would you say, and just type in on the box here, do you think I am a high D? I'm a dominant character, out there leading from the front, can be quite decisive and assertive, aggressive if I have to be sometimes? Or am I low dominance, more passive, not particularly high leadership, good to be part of a group but not leading the team? Would you say I'm high D or low D? Where do you think? Just type it in and I know what I am, but I want to see what you think based on what we're doing is reading people. I can read my clients as well when I get this done. So who thinks I'm high? So high, okay, thank you. So high D. And on that point, why? Yes, it's Slagyan, is that the right pronunciation? Forgive me if it's not. Why do you think high? Welcome to unmute if you like, and just, yeah, why do you think that? Or just
because you're coaching the people, so the best way is to influence them, themselves, to discover, let's say, what they want to do, where they want to go.
Yeah.
You're somehow like a consultant, if you like.
Yep.
And that's why it's best to do with influence, like this, charging something wireless.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Because if you try to be dominant, people can be scared and go into the shell.
Yeah.
Not going anywhere. If you, as I said, stability, so you don't do anything, actually, just wasting of time.
Yep.
Maybe you need some compliance, but not too much.
Okay, perfect, excellent, thank you, great. So yes to all these things. So my profile is this. Now I do have a high dominance tendency. I can go into doing what I do. I have to have that sort of dominant, assertive, confident streak to do what I do. So I have a high dominance, but I also have, as you said, a high I as well. I have, which balances out. They actually conflict a little bit. So I have this high ability to be quite empathetic with people. I'm good with relationships. I like being around people. I'm a people person, and the I and the D, they actually conflict a little bit, if you can imagine, but they balance each other out. My S is very, very low S. I don't like things to be the same. I'm good with change. I like things to be different. I'm okay with taking risks to a certain extent. Not particularly good at confrontation, but I'll ask the tough questions, if that makes sense. So I have low stability in my personality, and my compliance is back up again. I think, as you said, I have a bit more compliance. I'm an engineer by training. I like structure, I like procedures, I like things to be, in my mind, to my framework of being correct. So I have that level of compliance. Now, if you were coaching me, let's say I'm your coachee, and this is my personality, your job really is to match the coaching conversation, the coaching style, to my personality. There's a well-known phrase out there that we should, we treat other people as we want to be treated. I don't think that's the case from a coaching perspective. I think we need to treat people as they want to be treated, not as we want to be treated. And what I mean by that, we adapt our communication style and pace and structure around their expectations and personality. So we build that level of rapport. They feel comfortable because, as you said, if I'm in high dominant mode and it can be too tough, too fast, too aggressive for people, it's going to turn them off. So I want to know, who am I dealing with? What type of personality? Now, most of the people that I deal with they tend to be same as me, DIs. So we naturally get on well. I do have clients who are high S or high C. Typically, for example, an accountant or a lawyer or a compliance manager would typically be high S and high C in personality. Those jobs attract those sort of people. I couldn't be a compliance manager. It would send me insane. I couldn't do it. It's too boring for me, my personality. So when I work with a high S, high C type person, I would adapt the pace of the coaching, the pace of progress, and the questions that I ask to be more, I say gentle, but more fitting for their personality, to get the best from them. So we don't have just one, I think we touched on very early on talking about coaching styles. I don't have just one, here's a coaching script that I'm going to use with people. It depends on the individual I'm dealing with, and very likely for you as well. You look at different people. People are different in terms of personality, backgrounds, cultures, behaviors, and there's no right or wrong. It's just that they're different, and we need to adapt from a coaching perspective, adapt our coaching approach to match their personality. And you can see this. You imagine anybody on here has got children. And we've got two boys. You got Jonathan, works in the business with us, and Richard over in the UK. He's in an engineering sales over there. Obviously love them both. They're great. They're two great boys, but they're totally different. And they behave different. They think differently. They have different interests, different personalities. They're both fabulous, but they're different. This is the same with people. If we try and impose on people a one-size-fits-all coaching approach, it won't work. It just doesn't fit. So we have to adapt our approach. So, for example, if I'm working with a very high D type person, then the coaching conversation is going to be pretty, very much to the point, short, succinct, fact-based. This is my lady who takes 8 minutes on a coaching call. Very lovely lady, very high D. Time is precious. On the call, this, and this. There's no gentle conversation particularly. It's just facts and figures and progress and see you next week. Great. When I have a high I type person, high sociability, they would tend to come onto the conversation, for example, and we're doing this if you follow me on LinkedIn, which you're welcome to, you'll see we're doing a renovation job on a cottage here in France. And I put pictures up of, we just wallpapered the bathroom, we've just done this in the garden, this sort of thing. And the other clients, the high I type clients, they'll say, oh, I love what you've done with the bathroom. Where did you get the wallpaper from? And how's the dog? How's the chickens? We've got chickens in the garden. And they want to have a real conversation about things. Now, is that necessary from a pure coaching perspective to have that level of friendly engagement with somebody? Well, it is for them. It is for them. This happens in sales and negotiation as well. But in a coaching perspective, if somebody wants to ask me about the wallpaper and the chickens and this sort of thing, great. Now, what they're doing is, if they ask me about how my weekend was, how the chickens are, and how many eggs we've got, this sort of thing, there's almost an expectation that I'm going to ask them about their home project or their chickens or their dog or their cat. And if I don't ask them, it doesn't sit well with them, because they need to have that level of interaction. The high I needs to have that level of engagement and comfort, and that sociability with people. So if I've got somebody who's a high I type client, I'm going to adapt my coaching behavior and the conversation I have around their expectations, not mine. Now, during the coaching conversation, the same principles apply around accountability, transactional, transformational, but it's in a slightly different format, if you like, or flavor that suits their personality. So if that's my personality, you can go online. If you type in, for example, onto Google, free disc profile, you can find them. You can do your own disc profile. They're quite interesting to have a look at. You can get them done professionally as well. But if you want to have a look at it, be interested to look at your own profile. But if you're working with people in an organization, something like this can be really helpful to give you a picture of what their personality is like, and you can then adapt your behavior to suit as you go along. So that gives us a guide then of how. That's a very quick run through, by the way. There's no more detail on that. But any questions around personality profiling? That's a very skimpy run through. I recommend you do a bit of digging around, a bit of research. I do these profiles with everybody that I work with, regardless, executives or business owners. They're very, very helpful, and I recommend it. But any questions on that point, just because I don't want to skim over it too quickly for you, but that's okay, then I can move on. So we're good. What I'll do, I'll send Bisera, I'll send you a copy of a dummy disc profile, if you like, so you can see the format for it and to see what the sort of detail and structure it gives. It'll make sense then what it gives you about the person. But it really enables me to become a better quality of coach if I can get into rapport with my clients, and I have all sorts of conversations with them, but it fits with them, much more likely to they will allow me to be a better coach for them, allow me to ask deeper questions and get more conversation going. So that's the reason for it. So we figured out what questions we're going to ask, how we're going to frame them. And then it's a case, well, how are people wired? What motivates people? We've looked at the D times V. We know they need dissatisfaction, they need vision. That's pretty standard for all of us. But we're all actually wired in a bit of a different way. We're wired in strange ways as well. So this is called the coaching dynamic. And I assess this based on conversations I have with clients. I want to understand what motivates and what inspires and what gets them going. So this little framework is something you can use to sort of score yourselves, but also score other people as well. So what we're looking at here, we have external frame of reference. So I have an external frame of reference or an internal frame of reference. Now, if I said to somebody, for example, asking a question, a coaching question, I would say, how do you know when you've done a good job? How do you know when you've done a good job? They will say maybe, well, I just know. I feel good about it. I feel accomplished. I feel secure and safe. And I feel I've done a great job for people when I sense that I've done a great job. That's an internal frame of reference. They just know. They feel it themselves. They're self-centered in a positive way, self-centered, and they have an internal dialogue, which means they can tell themselves they're doing great and life is good. They may say, well, I get great feedback from my clients or my boss or my team or whatever it is. They let me know and they give me that positive feedback when I've done a good job. Now that would suggest The person is a external frame of reference. They look for external validation. They want people to tell them they're doing a good job rather than just tell themselves. And again, there's no right or wrong with this. And you may recognize this, for yourselves. If you think you're an external reference person, then you do like that positive feedback. These are sort of people who get testimonials from people in their business, and they ask people, "What do you think? How is that good? Am I improving? What sort of feedback can I have?" Tends to be external reference. Now, that means it's a good thing, but it's different from internal. If you're internal frame of reference, you don't really, not they don't care, but you don't get much value from external feedback. If you know you've done a good job and you're comfortable and happy with it, then great, that's it. It's enough. You don't need external validation. You do need just to know yourself. Now, the strength of an external person is they're open to feedback. They get feedback. They are open to ideas and sort of constructive criticism. It's a good thing to have. The downside of an externally referenced person is they listen to anybody. Anybody gives any feedback, they listen to it. They don't filter it. So if they get good feedback or bad feedback or constructive or not or otherwise, it's all the same thing, and it can be slightly confusing to a certain extent of which you listen to, which you filter out. So that's the downside of an external. An internally referenced person, the strength of an internally referenced person is they tend to have very high standards, and they are predictable, and they are consistent in their approach. They want to feel good about what they do, therefore they're consistent in their approach, and they have these standards. The downside of an internally referenced person is they don't take feedback well. If you say to an internally referenced person, can I give you some feedback? They're not interested. So they tend not to be very good with feedback or criticism, constructive, whatever it is. They're not good with appraisals, for example. An internally referenced person really doesn't appreciate an appraisal. They don't really care. They'll do it, they'll go through the motions, but they don't really want to participate. And whatever you say to them, they don't really care. They don't get it. Internal frame of reference. Then we have, are we an away from person? Do we move away from pressure, away from heat, away from fear? Or do we move towards goals and visions and objectives? Now, again, if I ask people what is their motivation, are you goal motivated and reward motivated, or are you scarcity and fear or heat motivated? Which one are you? I reckon 80% of people, oops, a second, I'm letting people in here now. Sorry. So if I didn't see you joining, I just clicked you on the box there. Vanity, yes, sorry, yeah, vanity, yeah, to a degree, vanity, yeah, absolutely right. Most people will say, in my experience, I'm motivated by goals. I like to have something to work towards, an incentive, a target, a goal. I'm highly motivated by that. And they think they are because that's the common currency of achievement. If you look at the coaching world, if you like, or personal development world, it's all about goals and targets and objectives and feel good and plans and bucket lists and vision boards. It's all future centered goals, and it's all amazing and warm and cuddly. But actually, again, in my experience, that's not the case. Most people actually are more motivated by pressure than they are reward. And you may recognize it. Some people are. I mean, for example, my wife Lynn is towards motivated. Doesn't handle pressure. She handles pressure. Doesn't like pressure. You give Lynn a goal, a target, a reward, an incentive, and she buys into it. Off she goes. That's it. We're away. We're doing this refurbishment of this cottage here, and we're just doing the bathroom and all the cupboards, that sort of thing. And she's designed it, laid it all out. Oh, there's a goal, the target. It's nearly finished. Great, off we go. That's it, done. Very towards motivated. Other people aren't. I'm not, for example. I'm an away from person. I do have goals and targets and objectives. Absolutely, I need those. That's the V on the D times V. Remember that, the vision part of it. But actually, I do my best work. If you kick me, I'm a horse, not a dog. You throw a stick for a dog, they go and get it. I'm a horse. I don't run. If you kick me, I'll go. And once I do go, once you do kick me or have that pressure applied, I can come out running. I can do great work. I know I can, but I have to have pressure applied. So what I do, I attempt to find out what is this modality for the people that I'm working with. For example, if somebody's highly towards motivated, and I think about 20%, 30% of people are. If somebody's towards motivated, That's where I go. The towards motivation is the goal, the target, the weekend off, the pay rise, the achievement, the whatever it is, goals, targets, vision boards. I focus on that because that's what really motivates and inspires and brings them to action. Most people, however, they talk about goals and targets, but actually what they need is the consequence, the heat, the pressure, the stress. So I need to put the heat, the pressure, and the stress on them. So there is this myth, I think, in coaching and development. A lot of coaches focus on goals and targets. Great, absolutely, and of course they do, rightly so, but they forget to apply this negative pressure, which sounds almost, counterintuitive from a client perspective or a coachee perspective. But if that's their modality, they're not going to move. If they're away from oriented and you turn up as the coach with goals and targets and visions and a box of chocolates and a glass of champagne, has no effect. What they need is pressure and consequence, and we need to apply that to them. So that the challenge for an away from person is that they don't do the best work until they're under pressure, or they have until the place is burning down. So what they do is they create the fires. They create fires in order to put them out. That's the real extreme version of it. I've done that in my career as well. So I recognize the pattern. So you've got to watch the good and bad in all these sort of things, but it's good to understand the modality. So for example, if I find a person that is externally referenced and a towards type person, well, I'm going to focus on what feedback are they going to get. So when they achieve their goals and targets and objectives, two things: who are they going to celebrate with? Who are they going to tell? And who are they going to commit to go on this journey? Who are they going to tell about what the goals and targets objectives are? From an externally referenced type person, committing to other people what their goals and targets are, hugely motivational, because they don't want to let them down. They want to be seen to be doing good work to these other people. So I'd go for external, goal setting, commitments, celebrations, and targets. And towards, it would be goals and vision and timeline, rewards. That's how I would coach and motivate and inspire that sort of person. Now, if it's me, here's me. I am I'm an externally framed, external reference, but a more away from type person. You try and reward me with goals and targets and rewards and things like that. I don't really get it. I need them to know what I'm shooting towards, but it doesn't really move me. I don't want another award, really. I've got a couple of medals and cups and that sort of thing. Well, great. What really gets me going is the fear of failure, the risk of loss or loss of position, or the not achieving something that I want. Not achieving is a big away from driver. So you have to have that conversation with me and turn the heat up on me a bit to get me to move forwards. And the goals and targets wouldn't work for me. Equally, a towards type motivated person, I'll come to that. Great question. I'll come to that in a sec. If you use the wrong technique or the wrong strategy with them, they don't move. They don't move. So it's a good one to check on. So question, if you ask a person what type is away toward, will he answer? They tend, well, sometimes they will, if they know they've done any sort of NLP training or that sort of thing, and they know the principles of towards and away from, they may tell you, I'm a towards type person, and I'm 20% away from and 80% towards. Great. Regularly, people haven't had that level of engagement or training, and they don't know what it means. And so we have to assess it through just asking questions. And a typical one would be, when you're successful, who's the first person you're going to tell? Oh, I'm going to tell myself. What's your reward going to be? I'll buy myself a watch. Okay, great. Internal reference, just me. I'm going to reward myself. If it's external, I'll take the family out for a party. We're going to celebrate. And all this external frame of reference. They take people with them. So asking questions is a great way of finding this out. It may be that you do ask people and they go, yeah, I'm external and I'm an away from type person. Sort that out. In my experience, it doesn't happen a lot. And even if it does, they may have it misplaced. I will use this model with people. I sit down with them and explain to them why I'm asking these questions, what I want to know. And again, in my experience, most people will like, you know what, actually, you're right. I do, when the pressure's on, my back's against the wall, the deadline's looming, I do my best work then. It's an unfortunate reality. But you can think about this. I mean, if you anybody here that went to university, for example, or college. I went to high school, college, university, this sort of thing. I mean, I didn't. I left school at 15, so I didn't have this sort of excitement. But anyway, go to university, let's say, and you're given a dissertation, a paper, report to write. You have a semester, 6 months to do it. Well, you've got this report to write, this dissertation to do for your degree or whatever it is you're doing, and you've got 6 months. When do you write it? When do you write that dissertation? If you've got 20,000 words to write, do you do 1,000 words a week and build it up, get it checked and hand it in with 3 weeks to spare? Or is it that you sort of leave it, you do nothing for 5 months and you put a pot of coffee on, Red Bull, and you type away till midnight and you hand it in at the last minute? If you do that sort of thing, then you're an away from person. You do your best work, or you do work when the deadline's looming, when the pressure is on. It's those sort of things is a bit of a giveaway. And again, most people, a majority of people are actually wired that way. They don't like being wired that way. They don't think they're wired that way, but actually they are. So to get results from people in that context, we need to know their personality, the disc profile, but also their dynamic modality. What is it that gets them to move? And use it, not say use it against them, but use it as a technique to get them to move along. And again, it's the away from is the thing that a lot of coaches miss. That they go down, they do targets, goals, and objectives, but they miss the pressure and the heat because it's uncomfortable. Remember, a lot of coaches tend to be high I, high sociability. They don't like confrontation. They don't like pressure. They like energy from other people. They don't like people being uncomfortable around them. Well, you know what? Coaching is about being uncomfortable and having those tough conversations from time to time. So use this for yourselves. You'll get it on the sort of presentation, the slide deck. Measure yourself where you think you are on it. But if you're coaching somebody, you can have this. This can be first coaching session. I use this document. Okay, we're going to talk about your motivations right now. Here's what I'm going to use. I email them the document. I just want to fill in this with you. Where do you think you are? And we talk about it, goals and this sort of thing. They go, oh, I reckon I'm here. And they design it. We have that on the wall. I then know what buttons to press to get them to move at the appropriate pace. So the dispersonality and these are two key start points from the coaching relationship, coaching conversation. Okay, any questions on that one? Does that make sense? It's an NLP framework in terms of motivation theory. We come across neuro-linguistic programming, Bandler and Grinder back in the 60s, that sort of thing. Loads of things on this online, but this is very simple, straightforward one you can use. Making sense? Does that make sense? Any questions? Looking on my screen over here. Everybody happy? Excellent. Just got a quick drink of. It's not vodka. It's water. Not that time of the afternoon yet. Okay. So we've done the framework, the profile. We've got the goals, the D times V. Everything's set. How do you have a coaching conversation? What does a coaching conversation look like? It's a tricky one because I think that the coaching conversation is different for each person. And it has to be, depends on their time. I've had coaching sessions with people when they are driving their car, or they're running or riding a horse, or this is bizarre. But how does a coaching conversation look? So what I've done, I've sort of mapped it out to a certain extent. And this is the average. This is how most of my coaching conversations go. Normally, when we start off, hi, Bob. Hi, Helen. Thank you for the feedback sheet. Thank you for the. How's your week? By the way, how's the dog? You took the dog to the vet last week. Is the dog okay? How are the kids? So whatever's happening in their lives, just a bit of an icebreaker, a bit of a conversation, nice, warm, and friendly. And we have this conversation and listening. Now, what I'm listening for is because when let's say they've sent through that objective sheet to me the day before, and it's all about goals and targets. I know what they're doing there. In between that document coming across to me and the conversation we're having today, anything could have happened. Anything could have happened. And so I don't want to go straight into the business talk until I've done what I call a temperature check. How are you doing? How's things? Now, if somebody's saying, if the dog's died that morning and it's not on the sheet, or I don't know about it, I need to recognize that's going to have a big effect on their mindset, attitude, and everything like that. So I'm going to adapt accordingly. So always start with a bit of a conversation, a bit gentle. How you doing? What you're up to? Well, this way, and sense their voice, sense their tonality, and sense their emotional state. You can tell when somebody's happy or sad or excited or sort of depressed. And if the energy is really down, call them on it. Absolutely call them on it. So I'm sensing from the conversation, I don't recognize the level of energy that was there last week. What's happening? What's going on? Anything happened particularly to bring your energy level down, for example? And they'll tell you. Don't go into coach mode until you've got the rhythm and the rapport going. So conversation and listening, find out what mood they're in, just check like a temperature check. What are you up to? That can take 10 seconds. It can take 20 minutes sometimes. It depends. This is why coaching is an art, not a science in my experience. Now, when you've done the conversation, the listening, then you can ask the question, coaching question, go through the numbers, the goals, the targets, the outputs, all this sort of thing. A coaching question pops up. Great, now we're into coach mode. Off we go. Then they respond and I shut up. Silence is a very powerful toolkit in coaching terms. If I'm talking with anybody on a one-to-one basis or a sales meeting or a negotiation, I go quiet, that's a very uncomfortable place to be for people. And they fill that space with words. So if I want to elicit a response from somebody, I'm going to shut up. So if I said, you know, on the call here, anybody got any questions? If I go quiet for 10 minutes, somebody's going to ask a question just to get things back on track. It's uncomfortable. I'm not going to do that. You're quite safe. But I go quiet. I listen. Coaching's not about talking and asking questions, particularly. It's about listening and figuring out, thinking and considering what is the next question or next step in this conversation. Where do I need to go with this to enable this person to move forwards and build and grow and develop? And I had this, you know, when these sort of conversations with people called, you know, crucial coaching conversations, they're called. I had a client in the UK, he was actually a car dealer, and lovely guy, and we started working together. This is about 10 years ago now, and working together for about 2 or 3 months. And he called me in between, you know, coaching sessions, which is absolutely fine. And he said, look, he said, I need to have a conversation with you about the coaching. You know, can we meet up for a coffee and this sort of thing? So I was, yeah, okay, of course we can. Here's me thinking he wasn't, you know, comfortable, it wasn't going well, he wasn't getting results, this sort of thing, whatever it was. Anyway, sat down with him. He said, look, there's something I need to tell you about myself that when I've told you, you won't like and you won't want to be my coach. He's like, okay. Anyway, he described this situation, and without going into all the details, he'd been in prison. He hadn't told anybody, hadn't told his wife, he hadn't told the bank. He'd taken loans out that he shouldn't have taken out because having a criminal record, you can't have loans, all this sort of thing. It's quite a heavy story. And this went on for about half an hour. He was unloading on me all this stuff from his background and this sort of thing. And he said to me at the end of this, he said, so what do you think? Now I was in this silence mode, and I'm in silence mode. And all the way through this, I'm thinking, what do I say next? What is my response to this going to be such that it opens a door for him rather than closes a door for him, if that makes sense? So he tells me all this stuff going on. He said at the end of half an hour, so what do you think? What do you think, coach? And I said, I don't know where this came from, but this is this sort of intuitive response you'll have with your people as well. What I said, well, thank goodness for that. He said, well, what do you mean? What do you mean, thank goodness for that? I said, I thought it was something serious. I thought it was something really serious, but this is just life has happened. So yeah, we're fine. I mean, really? He said, you're okay with the fact that I've, you know, been in prison and blah, blah, blah. I said, yes, I'm absolutely fine with it. Of course I am. And that response, I don't know where it came from, that response that I gave after being silent enabled him to let it all go. It's like, wow, so it's okay then. I said, well, yeah, you're not going to do it again, are you? No. Well, great, then we're good. Now he had to go and do some fixing around that in his life, because you had to go and tell a few people and whatever. We got it all sorted out. But when you go into silent mode, you're in listening mode. You're listening and you're looking for cues and words and phrases and emotions to enable you to either make the next comment or ask the next question. But the coaching, people think that coaching is a 1 hour coaching session. It's not really, because the coaching might only be, you know, 2 coaching questions within an hour. It's not coaching all the time. Coaching only takes about 5 minutes, if you like. We pad it out with conversation and feedback and thoughts and rapport building, all this sort of thing, providing we get these questions in That's the rhythm of a coaching conversation. So I'm listening, I'm asking another question, and then silence, and then I'm looking for a commitment to do something or move forwards or make a change. So coaching really is, again, in my experience, is not a 1 hour coaching session. It's a 1 hour conversation in which there are certain key points of coaching, key questions, key observations, key things, but we can't do it all the time. It'll be draining to do this, coaching for 1 hour. Crikey, I'd be drained, and so would they. So it's just, coaching is just these a rhythm of a conversation. You build rapport first, and then you ask these structured questions as you go along, and then you come out of it with a step forwards. In your mind, as the coach, what the pace should be to achieve the goals and objectives, and then you look for commitment to move forwards, to achieve or do something for the next week. That's really how the coaching conversation goes. I always have people have the operations, the documents, the objective sheet to me before the conversation. I don't do any other prep. Don't need to, unless they send me a document or a set of accounts or something like that, whatever it is to look at. But I go off the objective sheet. But I do remember, I take note of them in their file if I know that they have had a relative that's been rushed to hospital, or the dog's not very well, or the cat's exploded or something. I make a note of that because that's just common courtesy. I just check in. I'll check in during the week as well. I've got one of the guys this week. I know his wife wasn't very well, and she went to the doctor, and that was on Monday. And I just sent a quick note over this morning, just checking in. How's a good lady? She all good? Yeah, she's fine. All good. Back home. Life's good. Great. That's just part of the relationship building. I do care about them. Obviously, I care about my clients, but I just keep that relationship going. But the coaching conversation, fixed time each week, and this rhythm can take 10 minutes, 7 minutes, or an hour. And it doesn't matter. It depends on the person. It depends on their personality. It depends on what they need, not what I need. I don't care how long the coaching session takes. If it's 10 minutes, that's fine. If it's an hour, equally, that's fine. It's about them, not about me. That makes sense. That's my structure, if you like, of a coaching conversation. We always wrap it up. It never goes over an hour. It's always limited to an hour. I do that because I've got a busy schedule. So restricted, don't need to waffle on for days on end. I do hear people have coaching conversations for 3 hours. Like, crikey, what are you talking about? They got the 3 hours. That's a long time. So for me, no more than an hour. But typically about 40 minutes is the sort of length of a coaching conversation. They get great value. They always end on a higher level of energy than they come onto the call. That's my objective. They go away with more certainty, more clarity than they came onto the call, with a sheet with some objectives to go for, an action plan, and away they go. And they can check in anytime they like. My objective is to leave with a list of to-do things, a commitment to it, and then we follow through next week. How did you do? Did you complete these things? Yep, great. Move on. If not, why not? And we sort it out that way. So that's how a coaching conversation runs. Again, any questions on that, please type them in. We're going at quite a pace here, but hopefully it's making a little bit of sense. But type it away and I'll answer any questions you have. But that's how I do it. And again, I explain this to my clients as well. I'll show them this and go, this is how we're going to go. This is what it's going to look like. Because they don't know what a coaching conversation looks like. They don't know what to expect. And so I take some of the fear away by explaining what the structure is going to be. So, and you can do the same. Okay. So in terms of the sort of the principles of coaching, there are a list of general principles, universal laws, if you like, concepts that apply to all of us, that I use as tools and techniques and principles with my clients in order to give them some rules of engagement, some principles around which we can have conversations and around which we can apply principles of progress and achievement too. So there's loads of them. I've chosen a few here to explain and run through with you. These are the most common ones that I find that are powerful. And you can use these, if you like, with your coachees as well. Doesn't matter whether they are a member of your team or their clients, doesn't really matter. But these are sort of mindset rules or principles of personal and professional development that I find they're fun to use, and they're also challenging, but they give a framework to the coaching as well. So first one is, or the first one, the one I've chosen is intention. What is your intention? What's your goal, target, and achievement? Why? But why? There's a point earlier on about the 5 whys. I want to know, why are they doing this? Why are they in business? Why are they doing this job? Why do they choose this career, their path? And when I find out what the why is, that's extremely motivating. I can then find out, well, this is what really drives you. It's the Ferrari, wanting to be known about the guy that owned the Ferrari at his wake, if you like. It's the why. It's very, very powerful. It drives people on. They might not even recognize themselves why they do it. If we discover it together, find out what their intention is, then everything makes sense. They don't feel pressure and stress because they're working on purpose. There's a fabulous story, actually. There's a lady called Julia Butterfly Hill. This is a photograph on the screen there. You may have come across her, I don't know, but anyway, she was a lady over in California, Northern California, where they have the giant sequoia and redwood trees. They're massive, great trees. And these trees are protected species. You can't take seeds out of the forest. You certainly can't cut them down. You can't damage them. They're protected species. And what she found was, when she lived over that way, is that they were cutting some of these trees down to make way for, construction projects or golf courses and this sort of thing. And there's a big red cross sprayed on this tree, which means this tree is next to be cut down. It was so big, it was one of the tallest trees in the forest, that they called it Luna, reaching towards the moon. And she said, well, you're not going to cut that tree down. So what she did, she climbed the tree. I think it was back in 92, 93, so nearly 20 years ago now. She climbed the tree and said, look, you're not going to cut this tree down. I'm staying in the tree until you guarantee that the tree is safe. She actually wrote the tree a little contract. I won't, my feet won't touch the ground until you're safe. Wrote it all out, signed it, nailed it to the tree, got her friends to come and bring her, support and supplies and that sort of thing. And she sat in the tree canopy. And the question is, if you want to save a tree, or that's your purpose, that's your intention, well, how long would you stay in the tree? Northern California can be hot in the summer and freezing cold in the winter, this sort of thing. It's a bit windy and blowy up there. How long do you stay in the tree for? And I asked this question at workshops, and typically people will say, well, I stay in the tree for a couple of days or overnight, or till dinner's ready, or this sort of thing. She stayed in the tree for just over 2 years, didn't come down. She stayed in the tree on a platform. She had friends helping her with food and supplies going up and stuff coming down, this sort of thing. But she stayed in that thing for over 2 years. And finally, the local authority and the lumber company, they said, okay, we've saved the tree. You can come down now. And so she did, and the tree's still there. So I understand they did try and cut it down eventually. I had to put a bracket on it to save it, but it's still there, I believe, right now. She saved the tree. And what she did, she wrote a book. The book is called Saving Luna. You can find it, you can Google it, Julia Butterfly Hill, Saving Luna, and it's a fabulous story. She is slightly crazy. I mean, in a good way, she's slightly odd, but I think living in a tree for 2 years will probably do that to you. So Julia Butterfly Hill, Saving Luna. And she asks people, when she does her talks and presentations now, she asks people, what's your tree? What are you fighting for? Why are you doing this? And of all the fundamental principles around achievements in life and business and career, when we know why we're doing it, the real why, not just because we want to make a bit more money or whatever else sort of thing, but what's our real driving core purpose? What is your tree? It all makes sense. So part of the coaching relationship is to find out, what is your tree? And I use this phrase with all my clients. I use it at workshops as well. And the tree can change over time. You may have one tree for 12 months, then you go and try and save another one, build another one. It can change over time. But if you don't know what it is, everything becomes a task. It just becomes a job. It becomes a function. So this is why, from an organizational point of view, I also want to know, what's the vision for the organization? Why does this company exist? What's its purpose? What's its passion? Because organizations are entities as well. They have a personality. I mean, they're legal entities, as well as they're nearly human. But what is the purpose of the organization as well as the people within it? We can match those two together, and there's a synergy there between the vision and the why and the purpose of the organization, and the vision, purpose, and why of the individuals. That's when the magic happens. happens because you attract these sort of people to your company as well. So finding intention and why for yourselves. I mean, if you're in coach mode, you've got to know your own why as well. It's an interesting one to go through. I know my why. I know why I do what I do, and it drives me. It has driven me through my career and family and all that sort of thing as well. I know what my why is. It enables me to do what I do. But the same for you. If you're challenging people on their intention or their why or their purpose, and you don't know what yours is, well, you don't really have permission to do it. You need to be able to be clear on yours. Whether you share it with them or not doesn't matter, but you need certainty yourselves as well, in my opinion. From a coaching perspective, it's called congruency. If I'm going to challenge people on their why, well, I need to be sure about mine as well. So intention is a very powerful generalized principle of development and achievement. Use it, but live it as well. You've got to have your own purpose and passion that goes with it as well. What's your tree? What's your tree? And just a refresher, it was Julia Butterfly Hill. No, there was no Facebook in 1992. She wrote the book. She's now on Facebook. Yeah, good point. But it was about 20 years ago. Julia Butterfly Hill. And the book is called Saving Luna. And there's all sorts of videos and things on there as well to have a look. Fascinating story. We used to live, be very careful with this one. There's another lady, we used to live in Las Vegas, not California, and one workshop, I was given the wrong name, and I told people to Google Janine Butterfly. Now, Janine Butterfly is a pole dancer from Las Vegas, so it's Julia Butterfly Hill, not Janine Butterfly. You can Google it if you want to, but be real careful with what you find. It's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it anyway. Okay, next one, general principle is vibration. It's a sort of a law, a principle of development, but it's energy, passion, and activity. If you get somebody who's a high level of vibrational energy, they are positive and enthusiastic and in the moment and engaged with you, that sends out a much higher level of energy than somebody who is not engaged. They're sort of passive, or they're disinterested and disengaged. So what's your level of energy? What's your level of vibration? The reason this works is because we all give out a level of energy. We just do. Everything vibrates, cells vibrate, mechanisms vibrate, the whole thing. Now, hopefully on this call, I'm hoping I'm giving out a reasonably high level of energy. I'm doing my best to transmit energy out to you guys as well. But if you've got people who've got high levels of vibrational energy, they will attract other people with that high level of positive vibrational energy as well, because like attracts like. It just does. Happy people hang out with happy people, sad people hang out with sad people. Just the way it goes. So if your client or your coachee is at a low vibrational state, they're not going to achieve a fat lot. They're not going to get very far forwards because, yes, thank you, Freudian slip. Indeed, that's another one of my excuses. Well spotted. If I want to get the best from myself and from those around me, I need to have a higher vibrational state of energy and positivity. So if I'm working with somebody and their vibrational state is low, my job as their coach is to help them get that energy back up again. This is why they should leave the coaching conversation at a higher level of vibrational energy than maybe when they come onto it, or at least the same, but it should be higher if possible. I know that if people have a high level of energy, it's attractive to other people. It's like a magnet. They attract positivity to themselves. They attract opportunities, and they can then build them. And it's always really interesting. You see people who've got this high level of positivity. They just seem to attract opportunities to themselves. Things happen to these people in a good way that don't happen to other people. So what is your level of vibrational positive energy? If anybody's ever been, on stage or done any stage work or whatever it is, theater, music, or singing, you know that when you're on stage, you've got to send out a high level of vibrational positive energy to the audience. Otherwise, they ignore you. You have to be in peak state to do that. Same in business, same in career. So what's your own level of vibrational energy? Because we are transmitters of energy across a room, or it could be in a document, it could be in a presentation, it could be in a conversation. We transmit and we receive as well. We receive other people's energy and we can become affected by it. So if you want people to get a good result and have pace, then watch out for the level of vibrational energy. We want to keep it positive and high level people is the way to go. And check yourselves first. So I will ask people, you know, on a coaching call sometimes, where's your vibrational energy right now? If I think it's down a bit, I'll say, where would you put on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very high, very positive, you know, 0 being flatlining, you know, coma. Where's your level of energy right now? And they'll tell me, oh, it's about 4 or 5. Great. Okay. 2 things. What's caused that? Where's it come from? Why? What's happened? And how do we fix it? I won't go into the coaching conversation until that level of energy is up to the sort of 8 mark or something like that, because it doesn't work. If my level of energy needs to match my clients, but theirs needs to match mine as well. If they're a 2 out of 10, I'm bouncing in as an 8 out of 10, not going to work. I need to get them up to my level or get the synergy there before I can move forward. So vibrational energy, very, very powerful. You can sense it in people's voices, in the pace of language. Interesting one, when you're working on, I do a lot of work over Zoom, and what I do, and if you work as a tip, when you're working on Zoom, you may know this anyway, I guess, but still, when you're working on Zoom, I'm not looking at the screen, I'm not looking at your images down the side of the screen, I'm looking at the camera, so hopefully appears to you guys as if I'm looking at you. I'm not, I'm looking at my camera. But if you've got eye contact, if I don't have eye contact with people, the rapport goes real quick, and then the vibrational energy drops. So if I was doing this conversation with you and I'm looking at my slide, like I'm looking now, reading my slide, which is easier for me because I can see what I'm doing, but from your perspective, that looks really odd because you can see this looking here. It's ridiculous. No rapport, level of vibration, energy drops down. You're going to start to wander off. So I need to have my energy focused on you. I can see my peripheral vision here, but I'm not looking at your image. I'm not looking at the slide. I'm looking at you. That's vibrational energy. So watch out for that when you're having these conversations, either face-to-face or over Zoom as well. So vibration, very important. Make sure they're in the vibrational state in order to do what you're going to encourage them to do. Any questions? Please type them in. Anything else? Because we're covering these. There's a few more to go yet, but there's quite a bit of ground we're covering. If it's making sense, then great. If it's not, ask a question and I'll do my very best for you. Okay, next one, the law of vacuum. This is I say law of vacuum, principle of vacuum. The principle is, let's say somebody wants to make a positive change in their life, in their lifestyle, their career, their job, their business. And one of the things I ask them to do is show me your diary, show me your calendar. What have you got? And if their calendar or their diary is full, you know, from 8 in the morning till 6 at night, Monday to Friday, weekends are busy, everything's going on. Well, there's no space for change, no space for learning, no space for development, no space for understanding. So the first thing I want to do is create some vacuum, some space in their diary, their calendar, because without that, they can't possibly change and move on. So first job, let's get some time back for you. What are you doing? Let's get Friday afternoons clear or whatever it is. But without space, nothing can be filled with it. You want more of something, you've got to let go of something first and create the space to allow it to come into your life or in your bank account, for example. So nature abhors a vacuum. Vacuums are not, they are natural, but they would be filled by things immediately. You can try this out, actually. I don't know if you know, I'm assuming it, obviously. If you go to IKEA, or IKEA, I know how to say it properly now, I've been taught, they have these little square tables. I forget what they're called now, but the little square table, you screw the legs in, it's a little coffee table thing, very, very basic. I think they're about €5 or €6, something like that, not very expensive. You take one of those tables, put it together and put it in the middle of your sitting room or your dining room or something. Just leave it, put it in the middle of the room and leave it. You created a space. What's going to happen to that table over the next few days? I guarantee it's going to attract stuff, you know, keys or magazines or gloves or mugs and plates and stuff and junk and whatever. It just poof, that's a vacuum. Space gets filled by stuff. So you create space, it gets filled. And this happens in people's lives, in their careers, in their relationships, in their financials. It happens everywhere. So first job to make sure of it is there is space in somebody's life or diary or career or mindset or whatever it is that can be filled by something. Create the vacuum so it can be filled. If you've got somebody who's busy all the time, flat out, and you can sense this when they start, what I look for is if I have an appointment with somebody and they keep on cancelling it. Oh, I can't make it, I'm busy, I can't do this and I can't do that, I'm going to cancel this and cancel that. I know that goes on for more than a couple of weeks. They're not going to make it. They're not going to stay on the coaching program because they've got no space, got no time, and they've got other priorities. So I need to get that space in their schedule, one that they can have a coaching conversation with me, but so they can do some new things, learn new techniques, do some new strategies, some new tactics, change the lifestyle, take the dog for a walk in the evening, go to the gym twice a week, whatever it is, prepare some food for the family. That takes time. You've got to create the space before they can put new things into it. So law of vacuum. Do you have any space? What space do you have in your calendar, your diary, and that sort of thing as well? Remember that space can be filled positive or negative. Doesn't matter. The universe doesn't care. What you have space for can be filled by negative stuff or positive stuff. So you have to be real careful with this one. But you, as a coach, want to fill it with positive stuff and encourage positive things to come through for your clients as well. But what space do you have? Procession. This is another interesting one, but they're all interesting, I think, is my take on it. But this really means that action and reaction is at 90 degrees. So let's say, for example, I'll use my business as an example. I don't know what we invoice each month in my business. I don't know. Lynn does. She looks after all the accounts and that sort of thing. I think everything's fine. We seem to be okay. I don't know what we invoice. And the reason I don't is because that's not my focus. What I do, my job, my role is to add enough value to my clients through workshops and coaching clients, all this sort of thing. If I add enough value to my clients on a monthly basis, well, the sales look after themselves because, you know, clients come to us, they want to work with us, they stay with us, they pay us, and all this sort of thing. But my focus is not the money. The money is a consequence of what I do, if that makes sense. But this is my action. My forward action is value, and the response, the reaction to it 90 degrees is money comes in. If I was to focus on the money, if I'm thinking every time I'm speaking with a client, how much money am I making out of this? What's my sales ledger going to look like? It's not okay. It's ridiculous. My focus, and I need to be present, you know, with you guys, for example. I need to be present with you on this call, and I hope I am being, to give you hopefully the best value that I can. That's my focus. The consequence of that, I hope, will be maybe you'll come back on a future workshop and you'll say nice things and that sort of thing. That's great. But it's procession. People who focus on money don't get money, they get stress. Stress is a consequence of following money, for example. You very rarely get what you chase. So you've got to chase the right thing or focus on the right thing. This is the bike going around the bend again. You focus on the destination. What we focus on becomes manifest to us. Other things happen, but we've got to be really clear where we put our intention and our attention as well. So processional results. It's like bees. The classic story is bees. You know, bees, they go around the flowers. Bees, but okay, yes, thank you. The bees go to flowers, and they don't know what they're pollinating flowers. They go there to get the nectar and go back to the hive and make the honey, look after the queen, all that sort of thing. The happy consequence of that is they pollinate all the plants and the flowers as well. Bees have no idea they're doing that. They don't do that on purpose. That's not their objective. It's that's the processional effect of what they do. So when you're looking at people's objectives and targets, be careful what they choose, because if they just want to chase the money, well, guess what? You chase the money, something processionally will come through. We need to say focus on value so you get the money. Focus on activity so you get the health. Focus on the ingredients so you get the food and the diet right. It's this sort of thing, and be careful with that. But an interesting concept to discuss with people, because what we focus on, we do get what we focus on, but be real careful of the consequences. It's a law of unintended consequences, and that we can manage and look through as well. So, okay.
Yeah, David, in the management practice, they normally call these leading and lagging measurements.
Yeah. Yes, good point. Yes. Yeah, I think that the thing is that most managers, it's a great point you make, are what I call rear view. They always look at old numbers and to review what happened last month and this sort of thing, whereas actually where we need to be is predictive, absolutely future-based as well, and that's where this comes in from. So it's a great point. Yeah, well done. Good for that. Okay, so next one we have be do have. This is I remember back years ago. I used to, when we lived in the UK, I was walking. We come from Birmingham, it's the city in the UK. I don't know if anybody's been to Birmingham, but anyway, it was in Birmingham, and I was walking down through the high street, and this young woman approached me, and she said, have you got 5 minutes to spare? I was like, okay, it's slightly strange, as you can imagine. And when she wanted me to do a stress test, I thought, okay, we'll go along with it. I went into this big office building and this sort of thing, sat down, and there's a stress meter, and you have to hold these electrode things, and there's a meter on the scale here, this sort of thing. And she starts asking me some questions about, challenges in my life and my business and what I'm worried about. And this, anyway, I had no stress, which didn't fit for her at all, unfortunately. But she was from the Church of Scientology. She was recruiting for Church of Scientology. So if some stranger approaches you in the street and asks you to do a stress test, be aware it's maybe the Church of Scientology. So anyway, but she gave me a book. She gave me a book as a gift. And the book was the one by L. Ron Hubbard, which is the this one here, Dianetics. Now, I'm not recommending, please, this is not a pitch for Scientology, but the book, should you choose to go and get it, this is where Be Do Have comes from. And it's been used in the coaching, personal development world for years, but this is where it comes from. What it means or suggests is, in order to have something, an outcome, a goal or a target or a result, we've got to do something different. But in order to do that something, we've got to be something, we've got to behave in a different way. So it's not just a case of do more stuff, it's be something different. So it's be and do equals have. And what I find is so many people in business and in work and in jobs and careers, they're really good at doing stuff, being busy. They do stuff, they're busy doing all this sort of stuff. Their diary's full. But actually, what they should be focusing on is not the doing, it's the being. And the being comes down to knowledge, ideas, mindset, levels of vibration, levels of energy, attitude, behaviors, and beliefs. So we can work on the be with people. Who are you being in order to do the right things to have what you want? I think that we need to be very busy to get good results. We have to be active and highly busy. But, it's do squared, if you like, that's what it says on the chart there. So it's be, but most people, they ignore it. They don't look at their levels of knowledge, their levels of beliefs, their limiting beliefs, their construct, their framework of the world, how they approach things. They don't work on that. Whereas from a coaching perspective, we don't want to get people just to be more busy. We want them to change their behavior. Who are they being as well? Comes back to the spring. We're going to stretch them and push them a little bit. If I get the be correct or changed, the do doesn't have to increase. If I can do less, but be more consistent, be more efficient, be more productive, be more whatever it is, change that. So from a coaching perspective, when we look at this is the transformational aspect. Transactional is the do, what we're going to do, but the being part is really, really important. That's the transformational aspect. Be times do equals have. And again, it's like the D times V. If you've got a lot of doing going on, hugely busy, well, that's great. Not going to get some results. Focus on the be as well. Make sure that they're doing, they're changing, and their approach, their attitude is changing as well. So be, do, have. Again, buy the book. I'm not recommending Scientology. It's not a plug for Scientology at all. I think that's a slightly crazy guy, actually, L. Ron Hubbard. But if you want to have a look at it and find the principles for it, that's where it came from. You can Google it. It's all over the internet as well. Anyway, so be, do, have, but work on the be as much as the do as well. Okay, so because of that critical mass, this is an unusual one, but what this means is it is a challenge for people in personal development and workshops and this sort of thing, is that what this suggests is that you do a lot of hard work and effort, and nothing seems to happen. It's like when you do training for something or learning, you push, do all the hard slog, nothing seems to happen, and you quit, you stop doing it because it's too hard, not seeing the results, and then you get bored and you wander off and do something else. But what it means is that over time on this chart here, if the effort is the blue curve, you start off, you work really hard, and that red curve is the results you're getting, doesn't change a lot. So the high level of effort, not a high level of results. The challenge is that most people, they quit too soon. They do all the work, they don't see the results, and they stop. And what they forget is at some point they're going to achieve critical mass. This is the point at which same level of effort, exponential increase in results. And this happens in people's personal lives, in their careers, in their businesses, where they do a lot of effort, a lot of work. It doesn't feel great. They don't see the results for it for a period of time. And yet they quit and they never get the results. And they go on this cycle of hard work all the time. So what I say to my clients is, look, you're going to feel like quitting. You're going to feel like giving in on the coaching program or whatever it is that you're doing. You're going to feel like quitting. As your coach, I know we haven't reached critical mass just yet. Is it okay if I challenge you on that decision and we get it back on track? And they agree with that as a part of the positioning statement at the start of the coaching relationship. And they go, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, get it. And when it comes down to it, when they do it gets tough. I want to quit. I want to slow down. Can I take a break and all this sort of thing? I say, no, you can't. We're going to push through this thing. We did the deal. This is accountability to your own results and success. And regularly what happens when they don't quit or the pressure gets too much, they reach critical mass. So the effort stays the same, but results pick up and exponentially increase. Then life appears good. But watch out for this point. It can be delayed. It can be delayed by weeks or months or maybe in a couple of years or something like that. But if they stick at it, doing the right things, their business will exponentially grow, their income will exponentially grow, their results or whatever it is they're looking for. Don't let them quit too soon, because changing direction is absolutely fine, but don't let them quit too soon, because those results, they will come, but you've got to get to that critical mass, that critical point first. And I don't know where that's going to be in a coaching relationship. It could be within a month, could be within 2 years. I've had a number of clients who, on average, I think from a business perspective, you're talking at least 6 months. I think to make any sort of meaningful progress. From a career perspective, it can take a bit longer sometimes because within an organization, but explain this one to them. You're going to get to this point of critical mass. And when you get there, life's good, but I'm going to get you there. We're going to get to that point, and away you go. A number of times I've had people come back to me and say, you're right. I get it now. I understand what it means. I'm glad I didn't quit. I'm glad I didn't back off. I pushed through. We got through that discomfort. It became very uncomfortable. You kept me going. Thanks for the accountability. And that life is easier and better. And that's a reward for me as their coach. So be prepared for that. If you find people who want results real quick, coaching is not really for them. Coaching is a long-term, slow burn relationship. It's not a quick fix. If it's a quick fix, you'll probably find you're very, very directive, or you're consulting, or you're pushing, or you're kicking them. They're not really going to get the long-term changes. That's why coaching is a long-term relationship. I was once told that coaching is it's a marriage, not a date, and long-term relationship with people. Hence, we've had people with us for over 10 years, which is a privilege, absolute privilege. I've been with people through births and deaths and marriages and growth, and ups and downs and sideways. But the same thing applies. We're working on their future growth. So critical mass, it will come. But you've got to be prepared to put the effort in first. Work becomes before results. At least it does in business as well. So watch out for that one. But explain this to people you're working with as a positioning, and they'll get it. They understand it, and it'll make sense to them. Okay, past and future. Where do people live? So I'm just going to. Where do people? So you know people. Well, the past was better. It was better in the old days. Old cars were better in the old days. Food was better in the old days. Children were more polite in the old days. It was better back in the 1960s and 70s or whatever it was. The old days were better. Some people live their lives there. Some people live their life in the future. It will be better in the future. Tomorrow will be better than today. Life is going to be better. It's going to be great. All this sort of thing. Where should we live? Well, we need to live in the present. A bit of past is fine, but the present, 10% in the past, reflection on the past, lessons from the past, absolutely, that's good. The lessons there to be had. Was the past better than today? No, of course it wasn't. It's ridiculous. There's a letter written to the Sunday Times, I think it was. You can find it online, where this guy wrote in. He said, "Look, the kids of today, children of today, they have no respect for their elders. They have no work ethic. They're no good. They're not as good now as my generation. Kids in the old days were much better than they are now." And that was published in the Times. But it was published in the 1700s, 200 years ago, and the principles hasn't changed. That people of a certain age always think it was better in their day. It's not true. It's bullshit. It's not true at all. This is the best time of our lives right now. I know we've got COVID and stuff going on, but this is it. This is the best time of our lives. We need to be anchored in the present. This is where we live. This is where we operate. We don't worry about the future. We think and plan for the future. We don't worry about it. We operate in the present. We make decisions in the present. We accept it, and we live here in the present. We don't think about the past. We don't worry about the future. So if you've got people you're working with and they're always worried about what's going to happen in the future, scared of what's going to happen tomorrow, or reflecting on how good it was in the old days, get them back into the present. We are in the present moment. It's where we've got to live, where we operate. That's where our results come from. We get our results in the future from what we do now, not by worrying about it. So anchor them in the present. It's a great place to be. Effort curve means adding energy, so the curve is expanded. Absolutely, yeah. You put the effort in, but you're priming the pump. You've got to put the effort in first, and there's a delay between effort and outcome. So you've got to keep putting the effort all the way in, high effort, and then the results come. But it's a lag. It's that difference between effort and outcome. And I do wonder, I do wonder whether there is a tendency for more instant gratification nowadays. Slightly, people want input and output to be so quick, and that there's maybe patience isn't quite as high as it was. Maybe, I don't know. I do see that's a bit of a trend. But in coaching terms, in development terms, we've got to wait. We've got to put the work in, and then be prepared to keep doing it with little or no outcome, and then the results come through later. So yeah, the other curve, the curve becomes exponential as you go along. Yeah, good point. General principles: grow or die. We're either growing or we're dying. What I mean by that is you can't stand still. You have to be moving forwards, because the environment moves around us. The world is different today than it was. Well, think of 2 years ago. I mean, this has affected all of us. In this COVID situation, the lockdowns, the face masks, and all this sort of thing. The world is different in a quite dramatic way now than it was 2 years ago. I hope it looks like we're sort of coming out of it now to a degree. Hopefully next year will be better and brighter for all sorts of reasons. But we can't stand still. We've got to grow our knowledge, grow our personality, grow our state, grow our mindset in order to cope with this. Learn technology, learn new things. Otherwise, if we stand still, we're dying, because the environment will move around us. Technology changes, moves around us. The economy, the market, everything moves. So we've got to grow with it, or we're dying. And therefore, when you're working with your clients, growth and development, not an option. You've got to do it. You've got to keep on growing and developing, learning and reading. Otherwise, you're moving backwards. It's a continual process. So we're growing or we're dying, as a tree does. A tree can't stand still. A tree either grows or it dies. Same for people as well. Okay, so those are some of the generalized principles that I sort of recommend or suggest that you can use as a mindset perspective. We've got about 5 minutes left. What questions do you have? I'm here. I can add anything you've got. I think the future has a low percentage of what people. Yes, reach a goal. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Anita. Good job. Thank you. Any questions? We've got a few minutes left. I'm here. No particular deadline of time, but anything I can help you, please type it in, make any comments, and I'll do my very best to help. So I'll go quiet for a second. Any questions, please type them in. Gosh, look at that stunned silence. Look at that. Either people have fallen asleep or I've done a very good job. I'm going to pretend I've done a very good job. I hope anyway. I hope that's okay. Okay. All right. So I hope the reason there are no questions because it's made a bit of sense. You're welcome to contact me through Becerra. I'm working close with Becerra and the team over there. My details, you can find me on LinkedIn. You're welcome to connect David Holland MBA. You'll find me on LinkedIn. You can email me with any questions as we go along. If there are any workshops you'd like to participate in, please contact Becerra. We're working very closely with the team over there as well. I hope to see you again. I hope that was useful and interesting. Thank you for participating. And you'll get the video and a bundle of documents from Becerra tomorrow. So from me, thank you and goodbye. Becerra, is there anything you'd like to wrap it up with at all, or are we good to go?
I just want to thank all the participants again.
Absolutely.
And you did a smashing job. Great job, David.
You're very kind. I hope it all made sense. I hope it all made sense.
It did.
Okay, so guys, thank you. I'm going to maybe just pause recording. There we go.